Nerdrotic.com.
Welcome, travelers, to the fringes of reality, where the strange and mysterious meet, and the thin veil between fact and fiction is torn. Welcome to the Forbidden Frontier.
It's all about you. Why is it's so dark? Hang on. I like so dark.
You look great.
You look more yellow.
I think it look great.
I want those action figures. I want that action figure collection. Oh my God, do I want that?
It's ridiculous.
You're only seeing like a fraction of it.
Yeah.
It's like double.
Yeah,
They're
like,
literally
I think
all around the room.
on Monday, I'm going to do a panoramic picture. I just got to move Superman, who's my life-size Superman, because I have two now. My wife's so happy about it.
You should just have the whole computer set up on a Lazy Susan. As you stream, it goes around and around.
I got a game table. That's a good idea.
I saw a video of a guy yesterday, and he had rebuilt most of the sets for Lost in Space in his house.
Oh,
like his whole basement.
How big is his house? Oh my
Lost in
God.
Space Museum. Like he had, he had the bridge or whatever it is there, and the astrogator, and he had the outside, and it was just like, wow, this is a dude who's living in 1966.
I love it. Hey, welcome to the Forbidden Frontier, everybody. We're Adam Crigler is still on Swedish time, even though it's earlier for him. So if he's out there, bro, come on.
He's stuck in the future past.
He's stuck in the future past, but that's okay. We're gonna carry on. We have an amazing guest today. But first, let's talk to our amazing co-hosts. Hello, Quarter Black Garrett. How are you, buddy?
Hey, man, I'm super excited. Mike Bear, it's great to have you on, and I can't wait to hear what you got to say and ask you some questions.
T-shirt. I had that Led Zeppelin T-shirt back when it was an original.
I would like an original. No, this is a Kmart edition.
Kmart edition.
Hang on,
it just makes me. It makes me. Oh, poor kitty. It makes me think of that video that was going around of that girl who got the metallic. She was like pulling up the Metallica shirt. She's like, I love metallic. I love metallic.
Oh, no.
You're like, name a song. Just one.
God, does that just describe culture? Hello. Wait.
People.
Hello,
my fellow white people. I'm doing very good. Happy 50th episode, by the way.
Oh, yeah.
We hit
already
50.
My favorite number over here, besides 199. So I'm excited to hear about your, I guess, experiences, because I feel like there's a lot to go through, and I barely skimmed the surface doing my itty bitty research into space, Mars, structures, moon, all that.
All that stuff. Awesome. Where are you guys all? Gary, where are you?
I am in San Antonio, Texas.
Texas, and Garrett,
North Texas.
And X-Ray Girl, you're what? Bangkok?
Toronto.
Oh, Toronto.
Yeah.
Same thing.
I do the anyways.
I watch a lot of those, Bangkok boom boom videos on YouTube.
What's a boom boom video? What?
It's a long story. It's funny. I just live in Toronto.
Look it up later.
I'll pick it up later.
On The Bachelor, they had a boom boom room. So
you're in Toronto.
Yeah.
Awesome. I loved it there, except for when it got to be minus 47 degrees centigrade in the wintertime.
Yeah, screw that.
It's snowing right now. Ooh.
And it's communist. So there's that. But
there's that as well.
Could change.
Joining us, you've seen him on Ancient Aliens. I've been following this guy forever since he co-wrote a book with Richard Hoagland back in the day. I'm a big fan of Art Belt. There you go. As you guys know in the chat, Mike Bara is here. What's up?
It's great to be here. It's great to be here. I'm a big admirer of all the stuff that you do, and I love to watch your reviews of everything. And I haven't seen your Dune 2 review yet. I should watch it. I've just been so busy, but I saw it last week. I mean, look, it's funny because we're all fighting the fight on different battlefronts, right? And to some extent, I'm fighting it with NASA and with what they lied to us about space, and you're fighting it on the cultural front, on entertainments and things which highly influence us. So it's great to be with people that are like-minded in the sense that you're fighting the same fights that I am on a different battlefield. And it's
search
great.
for truth. You guys are everybody in your sphere, Mike, is highly influential on me. Because again, been listening to Art Bell, way back. May rest in peace. And it was always, considered on the fringes and alternative. And as time has moved on, being a conspiracy theorist isn't so bad anymore. It's not the dirty label they meant it to be. It's just somebody who's looking for the truth.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with going over whatever we think on YouTube or whatever platform it is. And it might sound crazy to some people. And sometimes it is. Sometimes it's the truth is worse. So and that's what we want to know. And it's really hard to argue nowadays. It's conspiracy theories. It just is. I was just talking to you about for the show, Mike. I was watching your Koof coverage, which was going there from like day one, right? And I was, and this was at the point where I'm like we're locked in San Francisco. It was freaking awful. The number, we won't get too into it now, but I'll just say the numbers were really low in San Francisco, surprisingly, for a dense city.
Yeah.
With a lot of people. And there was the numbers were low, but they kept us shut down. I'm like, this is crazy. So I looked everywhere on the internet for people telling the truth about it. And it was hard to find because they were getting yanked. Your channel got yanked a couple times. So I had to where is he now? I had to couldn't find you on Twitter. I just had to search around.
Yeah.
But I'm glad you're still around and we made it through. And it turns out all of that stuff, a lot of it that we were suspecting a couple of years ago turned out to be the case.
True. It's all true. And we we still can't talk about it because we are on a platform that still does that. But I mean, I'm on my 10th or 12th Twitter account. And
oh my goodness.
Based.
5th or 6th YouTube channel. I just gave up on YouTube. Thank God Rumble came along because now I leave everything on Rumble and I'll do a live stream of different, I do 3 or 4 a week, and I just pull them off of YouTube immediately so I can keep the channels going. So people that only have YouTube can watch if they want to catch it. And it's just it's insane what the hoops we have to jump through just to speak freely in the United States.
Right.
So,
yep.
And YouTube used to be such a fun place for UFOs and Bigfoot and conspiracies, and all your lectures would be up, and that's the stuff I listened to the most. And then it just disappeared, and now it's slowly becoming okay again for some reason, and I'm fine with that. And I'm saying okay. I'm not saying great.
It's not even
but hey, thanks to our friends at the Y-Files, they can go there, and they're doing great. And
AJ doesn't go there. I mean, there's a lot of things we can't talk about.
That's true.
I've written 7 or 8 episodes for them. I think I might do one more and then be done. I might do something that has to do with a date that involves 2 numbers that also can be an emergency thing. I might do that. I might do a video. I might write a podcast for him about that. But that's about the only thing I've got going. But I've done 7 or 8 episodes for them, and he still has to be very careful about where he goes.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. But at least he can tiptoe in there where you couldn't even do that before.
Right. And I mean, it's a great channel and so full of truth. And he's like you and me. And I think he mentioned you guys have talked or something, but
we've chit-chatted.
He's also committed to the truth. Now, I don't always agree with him 100% on what he thinks the truth is, but he's a super smart guy. And I just wish I could get him just look at this one point right here, AJ. But he does a fantastic job, and he's got millions of people out there watching him, and he's getting the truth out. I mean, I've been into a lot of arguments about whether the moon landings were faked. They were not, by the way. That's just, and I don't care what part I played on TV. They gave me $50,000 to put me on the side channel. So it's like, what do you want me to say? And I'm just kidding. Well, I'm not kidding. I tried to say things in a way that made it seem like, well, the conspiracy community believes
that
they had the wrong kind of shoes to walk on the moon. But I wrote an episode about Kubrick, the Kubrick thing that a certain person who I'm not going to mention any names, Jay Widener, has been pushing for years, and it's all BS. Can I swear on this?
Yes, of course.
Okay, it's all bullshit. Stanley Kubrick had nothing to do with the moon landings. It's all crap. And I wrote that, and AJ used probably 60%, 70% of my words, and the rest he put in there, but he got everything right. And like 4 million people have seen that now. So
yeah, it's
like
amazing.
4 million people have now seen the truth, right? Which is that we didn't fake them. So I think it's amazing that the potential of this planet that we live on right now is so great. If we could just get certain people that are blocking things out of the way and let us just freewheel. I mean, to me, it's amazing what the potential is for the future if we can just get these last few shackles of the age of Pisces off of us and jump into that whole thing, right?
Yep. Well, the system's fighting it tooth and nail, and you can tell, like, we see it in pop culture with the legacy media. They're trying to hold on the power whatever way they can, but it's starting to fall apart, and
it's because it's democratized, right? We can get onto this show and talk about whatever we want to. You can go to Rumble, you can go post a podcast on the biggest platforms imaginable all over the place, and they can't stop you. You can't stop that signal.
Yeah.
No. And now that we have one platform that kind of went off the reservation a little bit, Twitter, it's not perfect, but at least, it's
opposing the other.
It is. And it
platforms.
Forces them to not take as much stuff. They still take stuff off. Okay.
Yeah,
but not as much.
Mm-hmm. And it's not free speech on Twitter. I still call it Twitter, or let's call it Twitter X, right?
Yeah.
I still call it Twitter.
That's what I call it. I call it Twitter X.
I'm old school.
It's not free speech until I can quote in a tweet chapter and verse from the script to Blazing Saddles, and nobody bats an eye, and it doesn't get suppressed, and I'd like to say some of the lines because they're hilarious, but we're not going to say it here. But until I can quote some of that dialogue right out there, then it's not free speech. And Twitter used to be the most amazing platform because it was all free speech, and the cleverest people flourished. And the people that weren't clever didn't survive. And if you didn't like somebody, you just blocked them. And unfortunately, it became too influential on the real politique, right? The real world politics. So it had to be stopped. And hopefully now we'll get back to what it was.
My mind is a raging torrent, flooded with rivulets of thought, cascading into a waterfall of creative alternatives.
God darn it, Mr. Lamar. You use your tongue prettier than a $20 whore.
Not exactly the line I was thinking of.
Yeah.
No. One of the nicer ones
we could get to.
Still, that's the one clip I have of my clips because it's one of my favorites. It's how I wake up every morning. So that's what I'm thinking.
Don't tell your wife that, right?
Yeah. She knows. She's a good girl.
She gets it.
She gets it. Well, I guess we could start with how you got into this, Mike. I know you were an engineer, correct?
Yeah, I was an aerospace engineer. I was working at Boeing. I before I left there one night, they put me on night shift in Everett, Washington. Now, I don't know if you know the Seattle area, but I lived in West Seattle, which is about 40 miles from the Everett plant. So that was a 75-mile round trip. And guess what I was doing, Gary? I was listening to Art Bell on the way home at night.
Yeah.
And at midnight, right? I'm listening to Art Bell, and there's this guy on there talking about the face on Mars. And I'm like, I remember the face on Mars. I remember this picture, and it looked kind of like a face. And then NASA said, oh, no, it was nothing. And then one night, I was at a lunch, coming back from lunch, and I look at a bunch of my coworkers. I was out at lunch looking for another job. And a bunch of my coworkers are in this room. With an old VHS video machine, 4x3 TV, watching this video. And it's a video of this guy talking about the face on Mars at the UN. And his name is Richard C. Hoagland, right? And so I start watching this. And every time I'm like, well, okay, that's a good point. But I'm about to say, but, and then he would answer the question before I could even get it out. So it was like, this guy I'm really vibing with this. And I watched about 25 minutes of this and I'm like, holy crap, there's something to this. There's a lot more to this than I even knew or thought of. And then when I quit Boeing shortly after that to go to Toronto, X-ray girl, I went to Toronto to work for Bombardier Aerospace. And the internet happened. This thing called the internet happened. I still remember this British guy telling me it's just a fad. It's going to go.
Yeah. I remember hearing that.
And he was an old British guy. And then Hogan started this website, and it had an old school chat board on it, right? And I'm in there and I'm chatting with people, and because I'm fascinated by this. And a guy named Ken Johnson Jr., who had become friends with Richard and given him a bunch of original NASA 8x10 glossies of handheld photography that had been taken by the astronauts on the surface, which showed all kinds of stuff that shouldn't be there, right? And is completely different than what's now in the digital archive online. The same frame number, completely different picture, right? Anyway, he goes, hey, Mike, my wife, Fran, thinks she used to work with you back at Boeing in like 91 or 92. And I'm like, I remember Fran Johnson, blah, blah, blah. We go back. So I meet Ken, and then Ken knows Richard. And so then Ken introduces me to him when he comes to Seattle for an event. And so I said to him, hey, would you like an article for your website about image enhancement, what it is and how it works, I think is what I called it. And he said, sure, go ahead and write it up. So I did, and he loved it. And then he said, write this for me. And so then I did that. So it was basically a series of events where I just said yes to everything. And people ask me, how do you get on TV? How do you do this? It's like, you say yes to everything, whether you can do it or not. And you figure out how to do it and just keep saying yes, and you'll end up right where you're supposed to be. But the thing about it that's so fascinating is that originally it's like, I didn't watch Lost in Space and Star Trek and then get interested in aliens. I watched Lost in Space and Star Trek because I was already fascinated by aliens from as early as I can remember. First memory I have of watching TV is, the little 10-inch TV watching Gemini Titan missions launch or not launch, as the case may be. So I've always just been fascinated by it. And then, as time goes by, you grow up, you get a girl, you get a mortgage, you got a job, and you lose sight of this. But then, as I got to be around 30, I was like, wow, I kind of want to do this. And then all these things just fall into place once you say, this is what I'm going to do. Probably like with your show, you start doing your show, and the next thing you know, you're a mega media superstar, Gary. So,
I don't know about that.
Yeah. So that's how it happened. And it just basically just say yes to everything. And here you are. And then, later on, I'm at Alien Con in 2017 or 2018, right? And I'm sitting there having lunch, and I'm sitting across from David Duchovny, who was really nice to me, really cool. Sitting across from David Duchovny, and Bill Mumy is there, Will Robinson is there, and all the cast of Lost in Space. And Bill's like, hey, Mike, you want to get a picture? Because he was a producer on Ancient Aliens, right? So I walk in the room, and he knows who I am, right? Bill knows who I am. And I remember sitting there thinking, and then later on, Bill Shatner, I got to meet Bill Shatner at an Alien Con. And I thought to myself, if you had told, 25 or 20-year-old me that, in the next 10 or 15 years, you're going to be on the Art Bell show, you're going to be writing books that are going to be published, and one of them is going to be a New York Times bestseller, and you're going to be on TV, and you're going to hang out with the guys from Lost in Space and Bill Shatner, Captain Kirk, and all the stuff, I would have said all of my 12-year-old dreams have come true. And they have, except I wish I would have dreamed about being rich on top of it, but everything else came true. Everything else came true.
So you had a good time,
Yeah. I'm just saying to people, if you want to do something, just do it. Just go out and start doing it. And don't I just started a Seahawks YouTube channel. I don't care if nobody watches it. Right now, I've got like one viewer, and it's my brother. Okay?
Just do it as a hobby.
But I don't care. But if I really want to do it, and I want to talk football, and I want to do that, I know it will eventually grow to something better. So you just do it.
Yeah, I mean, even if it's a passion, you were following your passion, right? So either way, you're having a good time, and you don't care.
My wife didn't want me to do it, so that gave me a good excuse to divorce her.
There you go.
Yeah. Oh my God, it was 19.5 right when I said that. Oh my God.
Yeah. Well, I I had a
Actually,
I had a first wife too. She didn't like some of the stuff.
You don't get divorced and move to LA. You move to LA and get divorced. That's
there you
actually
go. There you go.
If you're a guy.
Yes. Well, or you just don't move to LA anymore.
Yeah.
So.
Well, why would anybody do that?
Place.
I'll never
oh
do
my
that.
God.
You get divorced of your life.
There's nobody I know. AJ, every so often he'll say something about LA, which is the same way I feel about it. Oh, LA this and LA that. And it's like, but that LA doesn't exist
anymore. No. The one I worked in 2011 doesn't exist anymore. It was nice. Mm-hmm. I liked Burbank. Burbank was pretty chill, pretty cool place.
I used to live on Redondo Beach. God, that was gorgeous. Nice. Just come out your front door and there's the ocean and just great stuff. Anyway.
So you work for Boeing. I have a question. Now, there's a lot of their contractor with the government.
Right.
We've heard stuff about them taking some of the crashed objects and things like that. Did you ever hear anything that could have possibly been like one of those compartmentalized programs or the possibility of one?
Well, I worked on some somewhat secret programs, and I had to have some security clearances. In fact, later on when I worked for Northrop Grumman, I actually had to have a lie detector test. So when people tell you you can beat a lie detector test, I'm just saying, no, you can't. At least the average person can't. I mean, I guess if you're a serial killer and can completely shut your emotions down, yeah. But no, I never really did, and that's the thing. And nor has doing this ever really hurt me. I mean, there was one job I had in 2015 or so where they weren't real happy that I had this alternate persona, but that was just a contract job I did for 6 months, and made a shit ton of money and came back home for that one. And that's not really the last aerospace job I had. So no, I never have. I used to work, there used to be these stories about, in Redondo Beach at the old TRW building, which was bought out by Northrop Grumman, there's these big radar domes and stuff. And there was a teleporter there to Mars. And this guy went to Mars with Barack Obama in the 60s, the teleporter and all this stuff. And I'm like, well, I've been up there and there's nothing up there but a bunch of old radar equipment. Right. And I mean like 1960s era radar equipment that hasn't been updated. So no, I haven't seen or heard anything like that. But that, again, I was a flunky. I was an engineer. I wasn't necessarily Jackie Gleason hanging out with Richard Nixon and getting taken to the Air Force Base to be in the alien bodies. So you don't know. Could have been going on all around me.
So do you believe that story?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, his wife, Jackie Gleason's wife, is the one who told it. And what reason after he'd passed away does she have to tell that if it wasn't the truth?
Right.
And that's not quite as wild as the Shirley MacLaine Ronald Reagan story. You guys want to hear that one?
Oh yeah. Yes. Please tell the audience. I know which one you're talking about.
I don't know this one.
So back in the 1960s, Ronald Reagan he'd had a movie career and he kind of declined a little bit. And he was doing TV, which at the time that was, TV was not a big, now TV is just as big as obviously as film. But he and Nancy were out, in Hollywood going out for dinner or something. And they're driving home along, was it Sunset? I think it was Sunset. But as you got closer to the ocean back in those days, it was a dirt road practically. There was like no civilization there at all, right? It wasn't like it inhabited like it is now. And they're driving and now this story was told by Shirley MacLaine to a guy named Jordan Maxwell, the late Jordan Maxwell, who passed away a few years ago, who told it to me. And I believe him and he believes her. And so apparently Shirley was in the White House, in the residence, visiting them, and Nancy starts telling his story, and Ron starts telling his story to Shirley because she's into aliens. And they're driving along, and all of a sudden there's this bright light in the rearview mirror, and they're looking at it, and that's kind of weird. And then it gets closer and closer and closer, and then this bright saucer thing speeds up and flies over their car, and lands on the road in front of them, blocking their way. So Ron's like, okay, I better stop the car, Nancy, so he stops the car, and a door opens, and out of the door comes an alien. And it's pretty obviously an alien. I don't know if it was a gray alien, but it was kind of like similar to that, right? Comes out and walks up to the car door and stands, right next to the door, the driver's window. And Ron says to Nancy, well, what do you think I ought to do? And oh, what do you think I ought to do? And she says, well, I suppose you better roll down the window and see what he wants, right?
Oh my goodness.
Hello, Mr. Alien.
Classic woman, classic wife, you know, from that era, like my mom. So he rolls the window down, and the alien says, okay, you're working for GE right now. He says, yeah, he was the host of the GE Theater on the Air or something. It was a TV movie thing. He says, well, we don't want you to work for GE anymore. GE are working with our enemies. And we believe that we believe in freedom and, you know, letting people be productive and having choice. It was almost like Babylon 5, like the Vorlons and the Shadows, right? The GE guys were the Shadows. Now it's interesting because GE owns NBC, and we all kind of know which way NBC went in terms of suppression, right? Which I found really interesting. But we don't want you to work for GE anymore because they're working with our enemies, and our enemies want to suppress humanity and all this other stuff. And we want humanity to be free. So we want you to quit that job and go into politics. And we have arranged a bunch of people who will finance your campaign. And we want you to run for governor of California. And after that, we want you to run for president of the United States. And according to the story, he agreed, and that's how he got into politics. And it is true that he just up and resigned from GE one day, you know, and resigned from that gig in Hollywood and went into politics. So I think that story is probably true too.
Shirley MacLaine was she was famously talking about aliens like way back in the day.
Oh yeah.
Way back in the day.
Yeah, like before there was Oprah, like Phil Donahue before
Phil Donahue days,
yeah. Yeah, Phil Donahue days, yeah.
The Inquirer days. I remember all that stuff. I do. I was into it like back when I was a kid, you know, 1,000 years ago. There wasn't a lot of books on alien stuff. There just wasn't a ton of books. Like the paranormal section would be in I forgot what the section was called in the old bookstores. It was like the meditation and all that shit. And there'd be like 5 books. Yeah. So I'd read every damn story.
There's Sitchin and Hoagland and a few other
people. Yeah. Von Daniken, you know, that was it. That was it.
What a wonderful guy Eric is, by the way.
Eric's awesome, man. He was I saw him a couple of years ago. Dude, so much energy, and he's funny as hell. Like, he's a really good speaker. You know, you're talking about the ancient aliens. His freaking accent is great.
Drinks 3 bottles of wine a night. 3.
Boy.
I sat there and watched him do it, and just telling stories like all nothing. I mean, he's great.
Extraterrestrials. Yeah. And he's like, he's really tiny, but he was great. He was great. You know, I knew Giorgio back before Giorgio blew up. I knew he was living at
don't say Blue and Giorgio in the same sentence.
Oh no,
not around me anyway.
I know, it's probably your favorite guy right now, but yeah, like he was living at my friend Cat McLeod's house. Mm-hmm. He was renting a room, and like he had a fucking mattress on the floor and like books surrounding his mat. That's all he had. Yeah. And it was right before like the ancient aliens blew up, and I actually helped light, like, I don't know if it was a sizzle reel or if it was just like I helped light a shoot for him where we had an interview. We went to a speakeasy in San Francisco. It's a bar called the Speakeasy, and it's an old speakeasy where there's just a lot of books in the background, so it makes it look scholarly. Okay. And it's in my reel somewhere. If you go on Vimeo, it's on my reel. It's somewhere out there. Good old Vimeo. And that's so I saw him right before he blew up, which was weird. And then like a year later, it was pretty quick. Like Ancient Aliens starts popping up, and it started out as like a special, and then it just turned into a series, which somehow in 15 years has had 20 seasons. But
yeah, it's like they do 2 clusters of 10 episodes a year, and it's each one's a new season. I'm like, well, wait a minute, didn't we just have a season in April, and now it's September and we're having another season?
Right. Oh, dude, just today I'm getting ready for the show, and I accidentally turned on my other TV over there, and I have it on Samsung TV, which is really it's a weird free TV thing. They have the Unexplained Zone. I think they relabeled it recently, but it just shows Ancient Aliens like all the time. Yeah. And there's your face, your mug was right there right before the show. I'm like, I'm
actually the mullet picture of me that you had up there as the preview is actually the preview pic for season 2 of Ancient Aliens on Apple TV in the UK. So like if you're in the UK and you flip on your Apple TV, it's Ancient Aliens season 2. There I am with the tetrahedral earring and everything, diamond earring and all that, which I love.
Sexy.
Yeah.
Sexy. So Contact in the Desert was this really fun thing that used to be really cool. It was at Joshua Tree. And it was kind of like the Coachella of UFO. It was out like they would do an outdoor thing. And it was like, you'd walk around and run into Graham Hancock or Robert Val, who's freaking sweet guy, like super sweet guy. Yeah. And I saw you. I saw you there a couple of times. I was in the front row. I'll never forget it because it was right. It was 2017. So it was right after Trump got elected. And you're at this like guru hippie thing. And you're like, just rolling out that Trudeau's Castro's son and all this shit. So fucking based. I was like, I love it.
The thing is, the UFO folks, and I love them, and I'm part of them. They're part of me.
Yeah.
But they think they want the truth, but they don't. And what you find out is that people that are into stuff like this, like you're into UFOs, whatever you're into some aspect of politics. It's like you think you want it to be true until it starts to become true, until the evidence starts to pile up. And then I had so many people just turn around and like backlash on you. And that's the same thing in the UFO community. It's like people, I'm totally willing to go for, an alien invasion, or the Von Braun predicted an alien invasion, or that aliens are abducting people, but but then you believe everything the government says to you about the TTSA videos, which are all, by the way, drones. So it's like, I don't get it. Like, they're so anxious to embrace what the government says, even though the government's been lying to us for 80 years before that. It's like, well, if they're lying to you for 80 years, what makes you think they're telling you the truth now? Just because they're telling you there's aliens? If they're telling you there's aliens, there's an agenda behind that. And I think I finally figured out what it is.
Maybe like
I want to go into that later.
Yeah, I do, because definitely let's get into that, because that's a subject we cover it a lot. And as much as I'd love for all of this shit to be true, and I think maybe some of it is, because the government will always put a kernel of truth in a bunch of bullshit. But I think we could all agree that if the government came out and told us tomorrow that aliens were real, most of us would not believe it automatically.
Exactly. I do. Well, I guess I was wrong about that, because
well, there are no aliens because the government just said there's aliens.
Yeah.
So that's
especially now with David Grush. Like we've talked about it. I think a lot of what he says is makes sense, and he seems to be trustworthy and everything. But he still used to work in the government, and he still said things that have already been said for decades. So it's like, what are you really uncovering?
Well, that's the other thing too. Is I see like my friend Nick Pope and people on there, and they're saying stuff like, well, the government's known about this, and they've had pieces of. It's like, did anybody watch the X-Files in 1993? Because they were saying the same shit like 30 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And Bob Lazar.
Why is this new? Bob Lazar, exactly. Why is this new? Why is this considered so revelatory? Because the New York Times is talking about it. The New York Times doesn't have the best track record.
Not really.
You're okay.
Humans are just forgetful, in my opinion. People forget very easily.
What else? You know what else too is people will not retain what they don't pay for. This is weird. Like, that's why Dark Mission happened, was because Richard and I, or one of us would be on Bell, or we'd be on with Nori or something, and we'd be citing this old information, and somebody would go, well, I never heard that before. And I'm like, do you watch it? Do you listen to this show? And they're like, yeah, I listen to every episode. And I'm like, well, we proved this like 5 years ago. And he said, look, we got to put it in the book, because that way people will retain it. And I don't know why that is, but I think you're right.
I think a lot, honestly, a lot of it is like they're driving, we're doing stuff. Art Bell was just on in the background. Now, I was the guy who I was in my backyard, freaking smoking heaters, smoking cigarettes, just locked in, not doing anything, just sitting there with my little notebook like a freak, writing this stuff down. And I still have those notebooks, by the way, because I never missed an episode. But most people are doing stuff, and that's kind of what we do here on YouTube. I have to repeat a lot of stuff because there's new people too. But I think you're right. It makes it disposable. Like if you don't pay for something, it makes it disposable. We're
weird.
finding that out in entertainment right now.
Right. And it's weird because people give me a hard time like, well, Bara, he's constantly self-promoting. Well, it's like, if I don't promote myself, who the hell is? It's not like,
what are you doing?
Right. So I would like to eat tomorrow and I got a mortgage, so yeah.
I can't remember where I heard it, but I heard it from you. It was from one of your streams and or maybe it was even a Twitter post about politics. What you just said is about like taking a side politically in the US UFO sphere. Because I think what's really happened, the UFO sphere is fucked up right now. It's a fucked up place. It's so split. And I think it suffers from the same thing Hollywood suffers from. I think TDS hit a lot of people in the UFO sphere. And I think it really jacked things up. Like you can tell now, like who's based and who isn't. It was like, even I went to Contact last year and Nick Pope, who I've always liked Nick Pope. I liked his books, but I've always thought, like, no offense to the guy, kind of vanilla. But then when I saw when he was able to speak freely, best fucking speech.
It was the best
Contact by far.
A rock-ribbed patriot. Nick Pope is behind the scenes. Yeah. See, the difference between me and him is that Nick won't generally say that in public, whereas I just did. And I got me kicked out of a lot of stuff, but I don't care. Because there's always some other place I can talk and always some other audience I can reach. But yeah, Nick and his wife they were right with you about the, bid thing. And she had to leave her job because of her stance on a certain facial appliance that unbelievably at a doctor's office yesterday, there were people still wearing them. And I'm like,
I know.
This
people
far
driving alone. No. I when I saw him, like I always had respect for him, but we walked out of that just going, dude, that was awesome.
Yeah, it was the best one.
Yeah,
I might disagree with him about a case here and there and some things, but as a person and as what he really stands for, and you're right. You're in an environment where there are a lot of people who have influence in the business, who are so far out to the left, I can't even tell you. And it's like, I don't know if it's okay to talk about that on this show.
Of course. You can talk about anything here.
All right. They're so far out there that it's like they're literally insane and they're all dumb guys. Can I say that? Can I F1?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
They're dumb fucking A. Okay? And it's like seriously, these are the people that it's like how can you supposedly be a champion of fighting against government suppression of information about the visitation of extraterrestrial beings and be 100% behind the government, which just, by the way, stole this and stole that and
praised Hillary Clinton.
And, and it's like utterly insane. And it's just Orange Man bad. It's just Orange Man bad. And it's like you look at UFOs. Okay, Orange Man, say whatever you want about him. He gave us more information about UFOs and aliens than any other guy who's ever sat in the Oval Office. He said, I've been briefed about it. That's the first president since Truman that ever said, I've been briefed about it. He said, and the people don't even seem to realize why that's important. He sat with an interview with Junior, who asked him about Roswell and Area 51, and they smiled a little bit, but he also told the truth, and he released the Kennedy documents. A bunch of Kennedy documents, which, by the way, prove my theory that Kennedy was knocked off because he was going to go to the moon with the Russians. And so MJ-12, which is the layer above CIA, passed down the orders, and we have the documents. He released the documents that prove that this stuff is all connected and who the shooters were. And like, it's completely out there. And yet I still hear these bizarre theories about there were 8 shooters and 61 bullets fired at John Kennedy.
Yeah. That's like, what? They had a machine gun?
2 shooters and there were 4 shots. Okay. Anyway.
That's the thing is like, when it's like you have the answer, but you take it too far.
Take it a little bit too far.
You don't need to go that far.
Hey, I love that you talk about Forrestal. Forrestal didn't kill himself, by the way. The first guy who didn't kill himself.
Forrestal did not kill himself.
James Forrestal did not kill himself.
He did not strangle himself first with his own pajama drawstring and then throw himself out a 16-story window.
Yeah, and I rewatched it. It's on Odyssey right now. So Mike Bear's got a lecture on this on Odyssey. That's great.
Shoot the link in the chat.
Yeah,
you can actually go to that, or you can go to just my blog.
Or your blog, the blog. The blog.
The only reason I don't have a real website is because I don't have time to learn web stuff to do a good one.
I don't know if you need one now. I think websites are just kind of, you know.
Anyway.
I mean, it's nice to have your own place, but it feels like websites are just kind of have come and gone. Oh well, I've got one.
Nerdrotic.com.
I saw that. Nerdrotic.com. I saw that.
I've got one. My son's got a new version of it that I got. He's been waiting for me to look over for the last 3 months.
It must be so great to have somebody in the family who knows web stuff better. I mean, I know a little bit, but you know, I
told my kid to learn the code, and he did.
What a good kid.
I mean, he didn't cancel you in your own house.
Yeah. But no, could you give a brief background on Forrestal? Because I think that's a fascinating story. That is.
Hang on. Oh yeah, there it is. There's my blog. Okay, I was good. Yeah, James Forrestal. You don't know who he is. He was personal friends in the 1920s and 30s with Franklin Roosevelt, who became president. 32nd president of the United States, 33rd degree Scottish Rite Freemason. Forrestal was friends with him. He was also friends with Joe Kennedy. They used to play golf together. The original father of the patriarch of the Kennedy family, who used to use insider trading to build up their fortune, which would be about $3 billion back in those days, for that amount of money. So he was friends with them. So he knew John growing up, and Bobby and Teddy. And I tell you that Teddy, that kid's driving's going to get that family into real trouble.
A lot of trouble.
Chowda. And so he knew these guys, and he was friends with John F. Kennedy. And as Roosevelt became president, he was appointed to different posts in the government, eventually becoming Secretary of the Navy. And he is the one who, when John Kennedy was injured in the PT-109 incident, which, if you know your history of President Kennedy, it's a famous incident. He gave him his, Bronze Star. Kennedy wanted a Silver Star, got a Bronze Star, but Forrestal signed signed these records. And this is really interesting, because then John F. Kennedy gets injured in the PT-109 incident. They once asked him, Mr. President, how did you become a war hero? And he said, it was pretty easy. A Japanese submarine cut my boat in half. So that's
kind of just happened to me.
But I mean, literally, there were some badly burned victims in his crew, and he literally put them in lifesavers. You know, what are they? What do we call them?
Sorry. Those donuts, right?
Yeah, just a life preserver. Put the bit between his teeth and swam about 2 or 3 miles to an island and saved 2 or 3 other guys' lives. So he was definitely a hero. But that was when he injured his back very badly and had a lot of back pain over the years. So after that incident, he was discharged and actually sent to a military hospital in Hot Springs, Arizona, where he was tended to by a nurse. I forget her name. What was her name? But anyway, she, after spending some time helping John Kennedy recover from his injuries, then moved from Hot Springs, Arizona to Hot Springs, Arkansas, where 9 months after she was with John F. Kennedy, she gave birth to Bill Clinton. So I'm just going to let you know that.
Weird.
Yeah. Anyway, and you wonder how Bill Clinton ends up being the only kid who gets his picture taken, shaking the hands of John F. Kennedy at the White House 8 years later. Kind of interesting. Anyway,
I will say he came out of nowhere.
Yeah,
Bill Clinton, and won 2 elections with 30%.
Yeah. Well, it was all that saxophone
of the vote.
It was all he came out of somewhere, and or Virginia. We were named Virginia. I forget her name. Virginia, not Clinton, but whatever her name is. Bill Clinton's mother was John F. Kennedy's nurse 9 months before she had Bill Clinton.
Wow.
You figure it out. You figure out why Ken Starr wanted the blue dress, okay, for DNA testing purposes. Anyway, so James Forrestal. We could go on like this forever. So James Forrestal then hires, or is actually, Kennedy is hired by the Hearst family, who were friends with the Kennedys, as a reporter, and he's assigned to James Forrestal. So he follows him around. Forrestal is then made the first Secretary of Defense after World War II, but he goes with Forrestal to look to Berlin to examine Hitler's office in Berlin. There's pictures of them together. There's one picture with Forrestal, the first American Secretary of Defense, Dwight D. Eisenhower, the future president, and John F. Kennedy, the future president, all in this one picture, just hanging around in Hitler's office in Berlin. And you're like, wow, do they presage stuff? Where's George H.W. Bush's dad? Was he there?
He was outside. He was outside.
We
Yeah.
got to get into that too at some point. Not this episode.
Getting a cigarette.
Yeah.
So they were friends. Forrestal was family friends with the Kennedys. So John F. Kennedy is hanging around with him. And then they disappeared for about a day, very, very near an area in Poland called Silesia or Silesia, I think it's called. It's in Western Poland, Eastern Germany. And it's where there was a rubber plant, which used 1/4 of all the Third Reich's electrical energy output, where they were experimenting with something called the Nazi bell.
The
Glocke.
Antimatter, anti-gravity reactor is what it was. Okay. So they were within an easy driving distance of that for about a day and disappeared off the map. Nobody knows where they went. I say they went there. So Forrestal and Kennedy were exposed at that point to alien technology because, and again, this is a great story going back to Eric von Daniken, because Eric von Daniken knew Hermann Oberth. Do you know who Hermann Oberth was?
No.
Dr. Werner von Braun's mentor. Okay, von Braun was his protege, the guy who invented the American rockets. By the way, we didn't have an American rocket program. Right. We had a German rocket program.
Yes.
A Nazi German rocket program.
Oberth was a guest of von Daniken's because von Daniken was into this stuff, used to actually own a hotel in, I think, Switzerland. And Oberth was a guest there. And Eric knew who he was. And this is in 1968. And he said, how did you guys come up with all this technology? How did you come up with the V2 rocket and the jet engine and all this aerospace technology? And Oberth said, well, we had help. And Eric said, help from who? And Oberth said, the people of other worlds. So all this stuff is connected, right? So Forrestal, and they interviewed these German scientists. They were probably part of the team, the Project Paperclip team, which you read, saw in the X-Files. Probably Kennedy knew these people, and there are documents. There's a thing called the IPU Reporter, Interplanetary Phenomenon Unit, which was a British organization dedicated to alien technology, which talks about in the document, and it's been pretty much authenticated by Dr. Bob Wood, who is this physicist guy who's been investigating UFOs on the behalf of private industry, a big corporation since the 1960s. He hired a guy named Stanton Friedman, who's a very famous flying saucer physicist guy. But Bob is still alive, still with us, great guy. And he authenticates these documents, and he has, I think, about an 85% probability that this IPU document is authentic. And it says the only person in Congress who probably knows about the Roswell crash, because that's what it's talking about, is Congressman John Kennedy of Massachusetts, who was elected in 1946. We don't know where he heard it from, but we suspect he heard it from some people he knows in the Navy. Well, what did Forrestal used to be? He used to be the Secretary of the Navy. So they were well known. They were linked together in documentation. There's other documents like this. And then in 1963, on Memorial Day, a few months before he was assassinated, John Kennedy went to Arlington National Cemetery and gave a speech and a presentation. And then he got in a limo and they drove to a certain spot in the cemetery where he stood at one specific grave for almost 30 minutes, which a president's not supposed to have 30 minutes to himself. It was James Forrestal's grave. And there's a photograph of it. And Forrestal was, as the story goes, murdered because he wanted to tell people about the aliens. He was a member of this organization called Majestic 12, which, again, there's documentation that it was created by President Truman in 1947 after Roswell. There were 12 members. Alan Dulles was MJ1. He was the top. MJ3 was the Secretary of Defense. That was James Forrestal. And Forrestal, supposedly, according to minutes of meetings and things that have been found, and again, there's always a dispute about whether the documents are authentic, but they look authentic. And he basically said, we need to just tell the American people the truth. We need to come out with this. That's the photo right there. Why? Look, Gary, I like you, okay? But if you were buried somewhere, I wouldn't spend 30 minutes over your grave going, oh, Nerdrotic's gone. I mean, we'd have to be friends. We'd have to be really close friends.
Yeah, very close.
Not just acquaintances, right? And I assume the same with me. So
my wife wouldn't even do that. Come on, let's be real.
But Forrestal supposedly within the meetings started saying, we need to tell the people about this. We need to tell people the truth. And that was not very popular with Majestic 12 or MJ-12, as it's commonly known. And so they began a character assassination in the press of James Forrestal. And one of the guys who was involved in this is Jack Anderson, who's very famous in the Watergate and Pentagon Papers controversies of the 60s and 70s, which is when people first started going, wow, our government lies to us. So he's very famous. And the guy he was working for as an assistant said, I never understood why he was doing this to Forrestal. He was making up all these lies about him, talking about how he was mentally unstable. And basically, they trashed him and trashed him and trashed him in the press, which back then was very powerful.
Really powerful,
yes. Than they are today, right? If somebody said Bear is crazy today, I'd be like, yeah, so what? There's nothing they could do about it. But back then, your reputation could be damaged by the New York Times and the Washington Post. And got him committed to a mental institution where they pumped him full of drugs. And a day or two later, after their at Bethesda, they threw him out a 16th floor window and killed him because he wanted to tell the people the truth about the aliens. And MJ-12 had decided that this was going to be kept a secret because it had to be, because it was the most dangerous secret that the world could ever be told.
What is MJ-12 again? MJ-12 is above
MJ-12,
CIA?
It stands for Majestic 12. It's an organization, a secret organization created by President Truman, and there's documents about creating this committee called MJ-12, which included people like James Forrestal and Dr. Vannevar Bush.
This is from FBI, by the way.
Yeah,
the
and they
documents.
say, they officially now say the documents are false, but are fabricated. But there are other people like Dr. Bob Wood who say they're completely authentic, and this is why, and they go through the whole list. And so they type the FBI.
I totally believe the FBI, by the way. Just totally believe them.
James Forrestal, Nathan Twining, Dr. Vannevar Bush, who was a 33rd degree Scottish Rite Freemason. And by the way, did you guys know Dr. Vannevar Bush is not related to the Bush political crime family, but he did do one thing that was very interesting. When Nikola Tesla, who was a very exotic physics, scientist and inventor, actually invented radio, and Marconi stole it from him.
Yep.
When Tesla passed away, it was Dr. Vannevar Bush who decided to assign a physicist, a theoretical physicist, to go examine all of Tesla's papers and decide which ones could be released to the public and which ones had to be classified. The name of that scientist is Dr. John Trump.
Yes.
Donald Trump's
Adam brings this up a lot.
Yes.
He went in there and got some of the documents.
And by the way, have you ever looked at John Trump and Julian Assange side by side?
No, I have not. We're going to have to do that.
Do that too.
Oh, wow.
So don't tell me for a minute that Uncle John didn't sit little Donald down on his knee and tell him all about everything he knew about exotic physics and UFOs and aliens and all stuff. So all this stuff connects.
Wow.
Majestic 12 was this organization created to deal with the alien problem, which they didn't know that they had until the Roswell incident. Now, there he is. And
I can see it a little bit.
Well, when you get them side by side, it's like, except for the hair color, they're the same freaking guy. I mean, it's weird. So, so Forrestal was, an advocate for let's tell the people about it. And I think what I say in my Ancient Aliens and JFK book, which is up there somewhere, what I say is that Kennedy felt the same, agreed with him that people should be told. And part of what he was going to do and why they had to get rid of him, why they had to get rid of President Kennedy, was because he was going to tell the people the truth about aliens. And it came to a head because he wanted to go to the moon in concert with the Soviet Union, not in competition. And he had proposed this. It's in Dr. Sergei Khrushchev, the son of Nikita Khrushchev, who was the premier of the Soviet Union, Cuban Missile Crisis and all that. His son says Kennedy offered twice at Vienna and again a year later after the Cuban Missile Crisis to go to the moon together. Let's not compete. Let's go together and share whatever we find there. And Khrushchev always said no because the Russians were ahead. But then in September, in public, in the UN, Kennedy proposed it publicly. And this time, Sergei Khrushchev says in late October or early November of 1963, he said, my father told me when we were walking that he had agreed, that he had sent Kennedy a message that they would go together. And then On November 12th, 1963, John F. Kennedy issues 2 national security action memos opening an office inside NASA to exchange space technology information with the Russians and opening an office in the CIA to explain to them about our secret aircraft and spacecraft versus he calls bona fide UFO cases, so that the Russians would not get confused by which ones were ours and which ones were there. And I'm not saying those things are all connected. All I know is 10 days after he issued those memos, they blew his head off in Dallas with 2 other guys that were connected to MJ-12 and CIA. And Jack, there's just so much stuff, Gary. I put the whole thing together. It's like
definitely watch the lecture. Definitely watch. Like
the thing is, okay, the moon, so what? The moon's a bunch of rocks. So the point being that, the Ancient Aliens on the Moon is one of my books. There's ancient alien technology on the moon. That's what Apollo was for. The first Apollo 11 was let's land, let's have Buzz Aldrin consecrate the moon as a Masonic temple, which he did. And then all the other missions were let's go find this technology and do the Terminator 2 thing and bring it back and try to reverse engineer it. So Majestic 12, MJ-12, they knew that if the Russians went there together with us, guess what? They were going to have that technology too. And that was something that they could not allow. And again, there's a memo called the Byrne Memo, which talks about Kennedy and says how much trouble he's giving us. And he's asking questions about what we're doing, and we cannot allow this. And I need your response, within the next few days. And this is, again, late October, early November of 1963, this memo dates back to. So you start looking at it and it all just fits together. And that's why they had to get rid of him. And it's also makes sense to me, Gare, why it was such a haphazard assassination. I mean, they got the job done, but Lee Harvey Oswald is not the kind of guy you're going to hire to take out a president if you have time. But they didn't have time because Russia had agreed according to Sergei Khrushchev, Russia had agreed, and it was only a matter of time before they were going to announce this. In fact, some people think that Kennedy was going to announce in his speech at the Trade Mart in Dallas on November 22nd, 1963, that they had reached an agreement with the Russians to go to the moon together. So
that would have kind of changed history, but you're right. And what you were talking about in your lecture is the guy who was, I can't remember his name, who was running NASA at the time, was just,
James Webb.
Yeah. Fuck no. We ain't doing this. Yep. And Kennedy had a lot of power, had a lot of fucking power, and it freaked a lot of people and a lot of enemies, including his vice president.
Yeah.
I agree with you there. That's some bitch.
So again, we're a little off things, but I think, UFOs and aliens, but I think this is all connected to aliens. At the Kennedy assassination, there is a picture, and I put it in the end of the book and it's in the lecture. And it's in Dealey Plaza. And you can see the president is like this. He's been hit in the back, through the throat, came out, and he's having a nerve reaction like this, right? Yep. And Jackie's got her hand on him. And then you look 2 limos back where the vice president is, and he was in there because we've got other pictures of earlier with him sitting in the seat, and you see Senator Yarborough and you see Lady Bird Johnson, and LBJ is gone. And the reason LBJ is not visible in that picture is because he was ducking. The second they came, and this is only after the first or second shot. So nobody had time to react yet. Nobody knew what was going on. There's Secret Service agents going,
yeah,
like shot. Yeah. But LBJ knew before they turned that corner in Dealey Plaza that they were going to start shooting at him. So
I got to go there. I've been to Dallas twice in the last year and I haven't gone there yet.
I lived here like basically my whole life and I still have not gone.
Really?
Well,
yeah,
that's worse than me.
I've been there, and there's another thing too. There's a guy named Gordon Arnold who said on a show called The Men Who Killed Kennedy in the 1990s, he said, I came up here the day of the assassination, and I didn't know what was going on. I just got out of basic training. I had my mama's 8mm camera, and I stood up. I was trying to stand on the overpass. The Secret Service told me, no, you can't stand there. So I went over by the picket fence on the grassy knoll, and I started filming because I thought it was a parade. And he goes, and then I realized, oh my God, that's the president. He didn't know the president, and a shot went right past his left ear, and that's the one that killed Kennedy. Hit him in the head. And then the story goes, this guy comes around the corner, points his gun at him, says, were you filming? He says, give me your camera. I'll give you a camera. I give you the film. He gave him the film. Guy runs away. Guy is dressed as a Dallas policeman with no hat on. And then there's the Mary Mormon photograph, which was taken of the grassy knoll shooting up. And they enhanced that. And this is analog enhancement. This isn't Photoshop. This is just light and dark and contrast. And you see a guy there in a Dallas policeman's uniform with the badge and everything, no hat, and his arms and elbows like this, and a muzzle blast, and you can see his eyebrows and his ears and his baldness pattern. That's the picture. And it's Dallas police officer J.D. Tippit. Absolutely no question that's who it is. And so you have this is like a split second before he gets hit by the shot in the head.
Yeah, he's leaning over already.
Yeah, because he's been hit in the back.
Yeah.
By Oswald from the 6th floor of the school book depository. Oswald 1 out of 3 ain't bad. He got him with 1 shot. And most people don't know Kennedy would have died from that shot anyway because it severed the vagus nerve that tells the heart to beat and the lungs to breathe. But the headshot killed him. But
it makes me think about why Oswald was in Russia so much. Like the general thought is that he was working with the Russians, but what if he wasn't working with the Russians? He was working with this MJ-12 in Russia.
Yeah. By the way, the point I was going to make with Gary is I've been there and I've stood right where the badge man is and right where Gordon Arnold says he was and was seen by 2 or 3 other witnesses diving and everything. And I'm just going to tell you, I'm no marksman, but I could have made that shot. With the limo moving at 5 miles an hour and a good police marksman like J.D. Tippit, easy headshot, right? But yeah, Oswald, the thing about Oswald is he was a wannabe assassin, right? He was kind of he wasn't good at really anything, but he wanted to be somebody special. He wanted to be an assassin. He tried to, when he went to Russia and Mexico, he was trying to get hired as an assassin by the Russians and they wouldn't hire him because he's like loser, right?
Right.
And I think that basically it just came down to we've got to take care of this. When are we going to do it? Well, let's do it in Dallas. We can get him pinned down in this area. Who have you got? Well, I got a cop, and I got this crazy guy used to be in the Marines, pretty good shot. And they said, okay, let them take care of it. And the thing is that people don't understand is that Lee Harvey Oswald was never arrested for killing President Kennedy. He was never arrested for shooting at him. He was arrested for shooting and killing Dallas police officer J.D. Tippit.
Yeah.
And there is a new...
That's a clean job, ain't it?
One of the new Trump documents that was released in 2017, which is what got me to write this book, says, FBI informant says that he saw Dallas police officer Tippit and Lee Harvey Oswald in a strip club in Dallas 1 week before the assassination, meeting and talking. Guess who owned that strip club?
Jack Ruby.
Jack Ruby.
Yeah. Isn't it weird that the guy who assassinated Kennedy gets killed by a strip club owner because he was so passionate about the president? I mean, it's hard to swallow.
So here you have
that is interesting.
Oswald and Tippit kill Kennedy. Oswald kills Tippit. Ruby kills Oswald. Ruby becomes a single point failure and he never talks. And he dies of cancer 6 years later or goes and retires to a desert island somewhere. We don't know. So,
hey, Adam.
Hey, guys.
What's up, man?
Hey, time changed.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's all right. I knew the chime change. I didn't, and I knew it was forward, but for some reason in my head, I thought that I would have to be up late. Like I'm all prepared for like 1:30. I'm gonna get ready for the show, but here it turns out it was actually 11:30. I'm out in Sweden, Mike, so I'm way ahead.
Looks dark there. Yeah, it looks like it's already dark there. So.
Mike, this is our good friend Adam Crigler, our co-host.
Cheers,
hey, thanks for making it, man. And it's okay because daylight savings time, the whole concept is fucking retarded.
Yeah, I agree.
I hate it, and it needs to stop. In California, we voted back when I was there. We voted to shoot it down in 2016, and the lobby from the power companies got that overturned. So if you don't think there's some kind of economic incentive for it, And that's a true story, folks. Look into it. Yeah, 2016 Californians voted to get rid of daylight savings time, and nothing happened. It's weird.
Nothing happened. Yeah.
Nothing fucking happened. We also spent 40 billion on a high-speed railroad that was supposed to go from LA to San Francisco. How'd
that work out?
I think it goes to Modesto. I think and it's just a regular train.
Just pocket the rest.
Yeah. Yeah, that's Arizona rules on that one. Can't really count your votes in a certain county, but you do rule in that one, and you have razor fists, so you got that.
Isn't there supposed to be a train from Vegas to LA too coming up? Like, I see them, supposedly digging up the road to.
Yeah, I mean, like the Nevada side will probably get it done. I don't know about the California side, but that would be great. I mean, they need the fact that Japan has had freaking what do they got maglev trains for 30 years, 40 years, and we don't is sad.
Yeah,
it's utterly sad. Our railroads are so shitty. Remember when there was the multiple railroad accidents last year, wasn't it, or 2 years ago?
I'm pretty sure they've been consistently happening. They're just not on the news anymore.
Yeah. They're not in the news, and we're such a reactionary society that they're finally redoing it. Like if Garrett, when we drive out to Vegas for a meetup, you'll see them redoing all the railroads now.
They wait until something catastrophic happens. They're like, oh, I guess we'll go.
Yeah, they wait till East Palestine. So they wait till
exactly.
a bunch of people are going to get cancer now. And Joe.
Come on, remember Chernobyl? Everybody was going to die of cancer. Only 31 people died because of Chernobyl. I mean, come on. There's no There's no weird babies with arms.
Yeah, there's no.
Deer are
we know of
Chernobyl.
I heard this thing about Chernobyl.
You're like, what's the problem?
So they thought Chernobyl was going to destroy all of the wildlife and the plant, right? But they found that all of the mycelium are actually growing towards the radiation.
Yeah,
they're getting radiation, power from the radiation.
Oh shit! The Last of Us, man.
Yeah.
Well, if I live in the Last of Us world, then hit me over the head with a 5-iron, please.
Radiation. Radiation.
I'll give you that bigot sandwich first.
Can I have a bigot sandwich? I want a bigot sandwich. God,
Did it have bacon in it? I would assume so.
A bigot sandwich has bacon in it. That is guaranteed.
Absolutely.
Seems bigoted. Yep.
That is guaranteed.
Bacon-ator, I think they call it.
So, Adam, we've been talking to Mike about a lot of stuff. Admiral Forrestal, JFK, structure. We haven't really gotten on the structure.
Yeah,
that's where the structures
on Mars and on the moon.
Wasn't that last half an hour monologue on my part? Wasn't that just answering one question about Forrestal?
I think
pretty much.
Yeah,
but that's what the show is.
Sorry about that.
It's all good. That's what the show is.
Love it.
You know what the secret to Art Bell would participate in the conversation, but George, I'm sorry, I'm going to insult George Snorri, but George Snorri just goes, yeah, that's neat. He's like the worst interviewer ever, but he lets at least the best part about Art is he let his people talk, right? Yeah. You let him talk, you let him go.
Madman Markham, remember that guy that built the time machine?
We just talked about him.
Yeah. Freaking love it. I love that.
Yeah, and Y-Files, AJ did an episode about him.
He did.
Yeah.
He did. I recently found on eBay, it was this little thumb drive with every Art Bell episode ever. So I'm going over them now, and I'm
in there somewhere. I was on.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
First of all, George Snorri is one of the nicest, best human beings on the planet, and I love the man. He's great, and he's fantastic. But Art was, and that's not to say that George isn't a good host, but Art was he was psychic. He would be interviewing me, and I would say something, and then I would think to myself, "Oh, I hope he asks me about this next," and it would literally come out of Art's mouth. I mean, he was so. You're right. He was so in tune with his guests and their stories that he was just brilliant at what he did.
And knowledgeable about. Every time I've listened to any of his interviews, it seems like he has done countless hours and hours of research on the subject they're going to talk about. He always seems to know what his guests are talking about too.
Yeah,
could be the wildest.
Well, he was
thing.
actually into it, and he was also like a massive radio geek, just a total freaking radio geek.
Yep.
and he'd be talking about stuff I don't even know, but he'd be breaking down like his microphones and stuff, and he had a transmitter at his house, in Pahrump.
Like one of the first people to have a studio in your own house.
Dude, he was there, and poor Art, he went through a lot of shit. Like there's a lot of crazy shit in his life. People showing up to his house and like death threats and horrible things with his son, and I miss him, man. I miss him. The world's not the same without him. He was the best.
No, but now we have George and AJ. I mean, the show goes on. The information.
Nap on set, like on weekends, is great. Like I
mean, Nori, not
Nap. No, okay. I was thinking George Nap.
No, I like Nap, but I like his co-star so much. Sorry. It's certain people in the UFO community.
Oh, I know who you're talking about.
They've made a habit of getting headlines in FaceTime as opposed to getting to the truth, which is a big problem for our.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's why I like again, the dorks in this field, which I say that like as a complete term of endearment, like you and Dolan and like guys who just want to like just get to the truth and have never wavered from that really, and have been around for God, it's decades at this point. And we do need new blood, but the new blood can't be like, hey, let's be sensationalist and
we don't need new blood. We just need the right blood and get in front of the camera explaining things to people. So
right.
Right.
I still love going to the conferences and stuff, and I'll probably go to Contact this year, and I totally think Gaia is really weird. But they have some good stuff too. They had our friend Ben from Uncharted X on ancient civilizations, and that's a pretty good show. There's some other stuff I think is weird, but I'll
tell you some Gaia stories off the air, Gary.
Okay. It feels weird and corporate. It's not how it started. It's not how it's when things get corporate, baby. That's what happens. But I still watch, Ancient Aliens just had their 20th season. They're doing top 10. So it's a lot of repeated stuff.
Yeah.
The first like 5 or 6 episodes is just old stuff put in the top 10s.
Well, now they put together those all-star tape things too, the 1.5-hour shows. And I'm like, oh, here I am from, 2011, fat, in love with a stripper. Here I am in 2009, thin, not in love with a stripper. I mean,
I was watching a new episode.
Eras of your life.
Oh my God, I'm forgetting. He's like the Belgian guy or the French guy who passed away in 2012. You know what I'm talking about. I can't remember.
Philip Collins.
Yeah. So he pops up on a new episode. I'm like, that guy's been dead for
12 years. I know.
12 years. I know, poor guy, but it's still fun. It's still fun. And like, we kind of lean into ancient civilizations here because I think there's just more like the data, the evidence we're getting is like more real. It's like tangible. Graham Hancock's been blowing up with the ancient Ancient Apocalypse on Netflix. I hope we get a season 2. It was awesome. We got Randall Carlson out there,
and Graham deservedly so. I don't know him very well, but we've been on some panels together, and he's just done brilliant work. I disagree with him about a few things, but most of his stuff is amazing. And Randall Carlson, I actually had Randall Carlson in my book first before Graham's book. But Graham's book blew up and sold 1 million copies, and I sold 8 or 10,000 maybe, I don't know. So but Graham's Graham, and he's a superstar, and he gets there by being really good at what he does.
Yep. And putting up with a lot of shit like we all do now. And as Graham says, we need heretics, and that it's good to have heretics looking for the truth. So let's talk about this is one of my favorite subjects of them all, is structures on the moon and Mars. And again, this is something that started with you and Richard Hoagland, who Richard, how is Richard? Have you talked to Richard lately? Is he, he's getting up there.
I don't talk to him much anymore. We had a little bit of a falling out after Dark Mission. We couldn't agree on the direction of Dark Mission 2, and I just kind of wanted to go off and do my own thing. And he's difficult to work with, but he's a genius. He's like this freaking genius. I mean, look, am arrogant. I walk into a room and I generally feel like I'm the smartest guy in the room, and it's not very often that I get like put in my place. But when I'm around Hoagland, I'm like, he's definitely the smartest guy in the room, and he's an absolute genius. He's an absolutely brilliant guy, but he's difficult to work with because of a certain level of perfectionism that is, I think, unnecessary. So we haven't had, but we are talking. I am going to be sending him an email this week, as a matter of fact, because there's a producer friend of mine, Darcy Weir, who does some pretty good documentaries and stuff that are out there, that he wants to do like Richard Hoagland, the final interview. And I want to be the guy to interview him. I think I should be the guy to interview him because I probably know him as well as anybody else, better in terms of his career. So that will hopefully be happening soon, where we go back and go over everything. And let me tell you something else. He's got shit he's never shown anybody. And it's like mind-boggling, because every time I would go there to visit him in Albuquerque, he would show me something else and I'd be like, screw you for doing this to me. I mean, just when I thought, well, maybe I'll just worry about football and sports and movies and TV, then he would like explode my brain with something like Data's head in the crater on the moon. I mean, looks like a robot's head. And, you look around and I'm like, I'm a mechanical engineer. That's mechanical. That's mechanical. That's not a rock. That's a mechanism. And then there's this robot head thing, C-3PO's head in a freaking crater on Apollo 17. And he would just blow your head up. So
that's crazy. And I think, it's time. You talked about having to repeat stuff. I think it's time for a reset on this. Because, Secure Team 10, has gone out there and done a bunch of videos on structures, which is like and no shade for it, but it's like derivative of
their YouTube channel.
But a lot of it's derivative of your stuff,
right.
of stuff and it's straight up like some of your stuff from the book, and it's good that Get Out there might want to give them credit, but it's always good to give people credit, I think. But
I always try to. If I don't give somebody credit, it's because I don't remember where I got it from, and then what happens a lot of times is, hey, that's mine. I'm like, oh, okay, well, good. Now I can, then I'll go back and fix it. But
you could just put it in the description or something, easy fix. But, the head on Mars was just the tip of the iceberg of like how much stuff is there. And now, science is catching up. Remember when it was just impossible that there was water on the moon, now, on Mars. Now we know there's water on Mars.
Water on Mars.
A lot.
Yeah. A lot.
And Hoagland and I did this paper, and it was mostly Richard's idea. I'm the one who told him that these dark strange things that he was seeing were water. I said, Richard, that's wet. That's water on a dry, sandy bed, and it's evaporating. And look, I'll bet if they take a picture a month later, it'll be all pale and evaporated. And it was. So we worked on that paper together, and now NASA's basically saying what we put out in our paper 20 years ago on the web, put it out there that NASA or Mars used to have global ocean, and it carved out Valis Marineris. It was a tidal bore that went back and forth for as long as Mars was tidally locked to this gigantic planet and orbited around it. And we made predictions. We said they're going to find salt. They're going to find salt in Valis Marineris. And a couple months ago, they found salt in Valis Marineris, so it's like all these little pieces just all keep coming together. And it's just a sign of his brilliance, Richard's brilliance. And the fact that Mars, I think Mars used to be habitable. It used to be just like Earth. Mm-hmm. So did Venus before planets started exploding in the solar system. And there used to be an inner Earth, which was Venus, an outer Earth, which was Mars, and a middle Earth, which is this one. And I think Tolkien knew that.
Earth.
That's what Tolkien knew. He knew this was the middle Earth, the only one that was left. And all these races, I think, that he had in his books, they were all the ones left over that came here from Mars and came here from Venus after the cataclysms, after the explosions. And, either they left again, went somewhere else, or they went underground.
Like the elves.
Like the elves and the dwarves and the orcs and all of them. Who knows where they are?
So not only a linguist.
It could be true that men are from Mars and women are from Venus.
It literally could be true. Well, I think there have to be women on Mars in order to be men on Mars, but yeah.
But
well, I mean, a lot of this, Tolkien was a linguist, but he's also, He knew his mythology, and a lot of this is in our mythology. Yep. And as time is going on, it's not mainstream yet, but people are starting to, and thanks to Graham and Randall and many others, that people are starting to look at mythology differently and oral traditions and see, well, there is truth in there. It's not just a story. It's telling a history.
Yeah. Didn't Tolkien, didn't he say that Lord of the Rings and all that stuff was actually, he said it was the true history of Europe, I think of the Urals before the flood or after the flood. I forget which one.
He didn't say that exactly. He said like the way he's presenting it is a mythology for England, but it's definitely like it takes place on its Earth. So it's our Earth just 8,000 years ago or 10,000 years ago.
Right.
Cool. And he felt like, the UK, they were robbed of their oral traditions and their mythology because they got conquered so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Be better at fighting.
Well, they got better. They got better at fighting. They took over the world. East India Corporation, biggest corporation on the planet.
They got better at
comeback.
They got better at it.
Yeah.
They forgot how to make food, but that's okay.
Like, let's hunker down for like a couple hundred years, and then we'll come back and just take over everything.
Best working in aerospace, best line I ever heard was there was a German guy there. And when I was in Toronto, X-Ray Girl, when I was working at Bombardier, there was a German guy there named Matthias, and there was an English guy named Phil. And the English guys, of course, they're just drinking all the time. And the German guy is Matthias would sit there, and it's like, it was 6 o'clock was, time to go home. And he would sit there, and there'd be this little alarm clock, and it would go ding at 6 o'clock, and he'd turn off his computer, pack up, and go home, like just totally disciplined, right? So one time they were back and forth, we had these Canadian flags they gave us. Like when we were not using a CAD terminal, we put the Canadian flag on top of it so somebody could see it was open and they could use it, right? So I'm like, screw this. I got myself an American flag, right? So I put my American flag on top of it. Then pretty soon the Germans started getting German flags and the British started getting British flags, and it became a big thing. And well, first of all, there was one debate where they were ripping me about being an American, and I just held up my American flag and I said, okay, everybody who's got a flag that's been on the moon, raise your flag.
And then everybody raised their pride flags because that'll be the next flag on the moon.
But at one point, in the World Cup in '94, Germany beat England like 1-0, right? And Matthias comes up and he starts ripping on Phil, and he's like, we beat you at your national game. And Phil looks at him and goes, well, we beat you at yours twice.
Oh,
World War I and World War II.
Yeah,
like,
you started it.
Yeah.
Best word I ever. I gotta work that into a story sometime.
You should.
Yeah.
Now, I fully believe, based on absolutely nothing, that our asteroid field is the remnants of an exploded planet.
Yeah.
Because like I think the science says that it's just a planet that never formed. There's
don't form out of that. That's not how
they don't. No, and there's evidence. I mean, there's planets on their side in our solar system.
Right.
Venus makes no sense. How is it hotter than Mercury?
Well, okay, so there were actually 2 planets in the solar system that exploded. Dr. Tom Van Flandern, by the way, great book, Dark Matter, Missing Planets, and New Comets. It's technical and it's thick, but it has the information. And he's also got a website called metaresearch.org, which explains it in more web terms of the exploded planet hypothesis. But basically, let's break it down to, there are, in our solar system, there's these interterrestrial rocks and there's the gas giants, right? Which have all the momentum. Anyway, and in other solar systems, we see what are called super Earths, which are rocky planets, but they are between where the Earth-like planets are and the gas giants are. And we don't have any of those, except we did. We used to. We had 2 of them. We had one where the asteroid belt is and one in the orbit of Mars. And if you look at the planetary spacing, Mercury is X number of miles away, and then twice as far as Venus, and twice as far as that is Earth, and twice as far as that is the orbit, roughly the orbit of Mars, and then twice as far as that is the asteroid belt, and then Jupiter, and then it works all the way out to Neptune. Where it stops working, Gary, is Uranus.
It's where a lot of stuff stops working these days. Not getting any younger.
Here, yeah, something bad happened to Uranus. Right?
Gotta get that prostate checked.
I intend to leave all the Uranus jokes behind me. Anyway, so Mars orbited one of these rocky super Earths. They're about twice as big and 5 times as massive as Earth. So they have a lot more gravity. They also, there's papers out there that say they're probably very unstable tectonically. On top of that, you apparently can have natural uranium nuclear reactions, which can lead to, guess what? Planets exploding. There's actually scientific papers out there. So that's not what I think happened. I think the Anunnaki, this race of giants, or bigger than us guys, lived on Mars, on this moon, very happily. And I think they built machines to mine that super Earth and the other one probably. And the machines got really pissed, just like the Cylons. They got really pissed off one day. And, a bunch of pissed off Cylons, and there was a war. And in the end, they had to blow that planet up. That's what I think happened to Mars. But, there's so many different signatures of this on Mars. Not only is there a civilization that appears to be wiped out, but you look at Mars and there one side, one hemisphere, which is not northern southern, it's at an angle, is spattered with so many craters, you can't even count them, right? And then the top is very north, is very smooth and very few craters. And so you're in this tidal lock relationship, like pulling on like we're in a tug of war. And then I let go of the tug of war. Well, what's going to happen to you? You're going to fall back like that. So Mars, this thing exploded, Mars tipped over, and all this stuff just spattered the debris, ripped away half the atmosphere, wiped out the civilization and the people who built the face on Mars and the 5-sided pyramids and all this other stuff and all this incredible junk that the rovers see, all this mechanical stuff. They had to pack up and go somewhere else. And I think they tried to hang out on Mars as long as they could, but I think they came here and, and then there's the biblical story. They saw the daughters of men and saw that they were fair. Like, hey, the chicks here on Earth aren't that bad. And the next thing you know, there's this interbred sort of combination of Neanderthal or whatever was here and them. And that became us in a way. And there's a lot of other stuff that, there's so much technical detail I could go into. I don't want to bore you, but one of the things that's really interesting is that, they measure biorhythms, right? And our biorhythms when we're on Earth are 24 hours, right? 24 hours, one day cycle, 8 hours, 8 hours, 8 hours, 24, it goes over and over and over again. When we're up in the International Space Station, the biorhythm changes to a 24.9 hour cycle, which is 1 day on Mars, not on Earth. Why is there something in our DNA that's connected to Mars, not necessarily Earth? So when we're away from Earth's influence, we're more like Martians. So
interesting.
I don't know.
Very interesting.
Yeah,
never heard that.
I don't know if it's what you wanted to know or what you wanted to talk about.
No,
what's
that's
your
what
theory on what this massive crater is? This big.
That's Valis Marineris. It's bigger than the United States, or about the same size. What Hoagland came up with is that on the left side and the right side, you had global oceans that were locked because of this intense gravitational tidal lock relationship with a planet. I think I named it Phaeton. Tom Van Flandern called it Planet 5 or Planet V. And
I like Phaeton.
Right. I like Phaeton too. As it orbits left to right, what happens is a tidal bore or water sloshes back and forth. And so that's what carved this out. And if you look in the middle of Valis Marineris, what's in the middle? It goes out at 90 degrees. So in other words, these two tidal bores, one going one direction, one going the other, they meet in the middle and then they spread out. And if you look at that, that's exactly what it looks like. It looks like that this water carved out this enormous trough. And one of the things that Hoagland and I put in our paper as a predictor was, hey, what you're going to find is at the bottom of Valis Marineris is you're going to find salt. You're going to find salt water because there's going to be water under the ground and there's going to be salt on the surface. And they have found that. So when what happened to Mars happened, those oceans just sort of were released. And that's the catastrophic flooding that you see all over the surface of Mars. I'd love for Randall Carlson to look at Mars the same way he looks at Earth.
Yeah.
He's talked about it. He's definitely talked about it.
You would find the catastrophic flood, and all that water pretty much scoured clean the northern hemisphere for the most part and settled in. And it's all under the ground. There's tons of water under the ground on Mars.
Yeah. So what's the scientific explanation for this? I think did they say it was like just tectonic?
No, they don't know. There was an interesting theory. There is no scientific explanation.
Okay, gotcha.
There's really none. Nobody knows why or how this would happen. It doesn't, the Grand Canyon on Earth It's because of water, right? But there can't be water on Mars because NASA says there isn't, or there hasn't been. So that can't be right.
What are these right here? Like that looks like telltale, like it, yeah.
And they've done some infrared scanning. They found underground tributaries where these oceans, where where water gets underneath oceans and it carves out channels and stuff. And you can see that stuff too. By the way, it's a really nice rendering of Arrakis you have there.
I was going to say Arrakis as well. Is that what the?
Well, we promised talk about Dune. We did promise to talk about Dune. My review.
I haven't watched it yet.
Oh,
you haven't watched it?
The Fremen.
I could take these off if you want.
No, we'll go spoiler.
You've read the book. Have you read the book?
I've seen the David Lynch Dune.
Okay.
So well, you've seen the whole story. Then. You've seen the whole story.
You know where it's gonna go.
Ends a little differently in the second part. Ends a little differently, but
it's been a while.
I liked it. I thought it was really solid movie. Thought it was a solid movie. I wouldn't call it the greatest thing I've ever seen, but like visually, it's fucking magnificent.
Yeah.
Like the effects, the way it's shot, everything looks fucking real. I mean, it's dope.
Is it better than the first one?
No,
I always say it's on par. If not, the first one's better. Yeah.
I know what Mike thinks. Mike, what did you think of Dune Part 2? And Part 1?
Well, I will tell you that in more detail in a second, but I liked it so much that I went and I pulled off all of the scripts off of the web for the David Lynch film and the sci-fi miniseries and the Denis Villeneuve scripts. And I'm rewriting them into one conglomeration based almost entirely on the Lynch film, which if you take away the Baron and some things like that is, I think, the best version of it.
I love the Lynch film.
I'm going to rewrite the whole thing. I'm going to not rewrite it, but basically put everything together, make a few modifications, a few improvements in some of the dialogue, and I'm going to put it out on the web because I'm so desperate for a really good Dune script to be out there because nobody's made one yet, right? I mean, Lynch went overboard with the over-the-top stuff and the zits on the Baron and all that, and these movies I don't like at all because I'm sitting there. It's an hour into Dune 2. First of all, get this. My brother and I went to the theater. They directed us to the wrong theater. We almost sat through Madame Web. So,
oh no, that's a war crime,
too, right?
But
nobody asked Denis Villeneuve, who I think is a great filmmaker based on. Nobody asked him for a gynocentric Dune. Okay, nobody asked for that, and that's what I think it is. Everything is about the women. Paul becomes almost a side character. And the story is about Paul and how his experiences there change him. And yes, the women have influence, but if I had to look at Chani,
worst thing in it,
getting all mad and stomping off one more time, like she was PMS or something, I was gonna go crazy. She didn't support him. She was derisive towards Paul.
She had sand in her vagina.
She was dismissive of him, and then the script buys right into that. Oh no, Paul's not really the hero. Really a hero. And the fact there weren't any heroes in it from what I could see. Paul's not the hero. Paul's not special. The women are the ones that are special. So it becomes a gynocentric version of Dune, which I just don't think I don't think the story works that way. The story is really, and people at NASA will love this, it's really just the myth of Isis, Osiris, and Horus and Seth. It's the Egyptian myth because Isis is Jessica, the witch. The good King Osiris is Duke Leto. The bad king is Seth, the Baron Harkonnen, and Horus, the avenging son, is Paul. And that's what the story's supposed to be about, but it's not about that at this point. And Paul just becomes a fraud. He becomes this guy who just plays this role to get revenge on the Baron, who then turns out to be his grandfather, which I know is in the book, but to me it doesn't make any. There's no need for it. So just from my perspective, visually too, Gary, I got to disagree with you. I thought it was very flat. The color palette is so flat.
Well, it's Dune. It's a desert planet.
Yeah, so. I know, but you look at Dune, Lynch's Dune, and it's just, to me, the vistas are just as good, and the special effects are, for the worms especially, are almost as good. The rest of them are terrible, obviously, from 1984. So I wasn't that impressed with that stuff. And of course, you've got Hans Zimmer's deafening soundtracks, which just make my ears bleed at the end of them. So there were all these things about
Razor fist to call them French horn farts.
I said to my brother, who's a big Dune fan, I said to my brother about an hour in, I said, "Is this supposed to be a science fiction film? Because all I'm seeing is a bunch of Bedouins, running around the desert wearing rags, and that's with not even any ray guns or anything."
Part 2's like weakest link besides Zendaya was the pacing in the first half of the movie.
Yeah.
It's really inconsistent.
So I was, look,
well, I like the first one a lot better. I like the world building.
I mean, I think I keep hoping that somebody will make the definitively great version of Dune because it deserves it. Because all these elements in the story are just great. But I gotta say, out of all of them that I've seen so far, I think the closest one is Lynch's script. If you take David Lynch's script and somebody else shoots basically that script without, eating
the Lynch embellishments,
all the David Lynch stuff.
Yeah, and I think that's probably the best chance.
Dude, that's the most normal movie he's ever made, by the way.
I know.
And it wasn't. He couldn't edit it. They took it away from him. That's why.
Yeah, it's like
otherwise it would have been weirder.
So I don't know. I just was disappointed.
All right.
In that.
Well, I didn't read the book. I
haven't read the book either.
I mean, I'm sorry. I like Sting better. I want Sting to get out there and
I don't know,
and the fight, and I don't know.
I will kill him.
I've heard that though. A lot of people that have read the book feel that way, the same way as you.
There's a great Dune movie out there yet still to be made. And
I think this will probably be the only one you'll ever get. He did
we're lucky to get this one.
There'll be a third one, and I know the other books. What I've heard, because I haven't read them, they get weirder, and it's going to be a little harder to adapt. But Villeneuve isn't going to be doing it for a couple more years. But
and also I just can't believe Timothée Chalamet as a military.
Well, isn't he supposed to be like? Well, he's supposed to be 15, right? He's supposed to be like really young.
Yeah.
So,
but again, that wasn't very. That's not very believable either. At least Kyle MacLachlan was 20 years old or something when they he looked the part, and Timothy just doesn't.
Oh yeah, Timothée Chalamet will probably be up for Bond next, and Batman. As far as
oh no,
that's what Hollywood thinks is masculine now.
Yeah, not Henry Cavill. We're gonna go Timothée Chalamet.
Timothée Chalamet, who wears skirts.
So I think what it is that we're starved for good science fiction. We're starved for good anything. And I think, but by comparison to other stuff that's out there, which you have unfortunately had to sit through, I don't have to because I don't have a channel on it. But I just think we're starved for it. So we're more impressed with it than they should have been.
Maybe. I mean, like that argument has to be out there because it's been such shit. Yeah. And would it be? Well, I mean, like a lot that could be said about Avatar. James Cameron's Avatar. That's the fucking film franchise I don't get. People love it. I think it's garbage. But man, does that thing make money? Because it looks good. It looks pretty.
Yeah.
Sure. Pregnant women going into battle. Get the fuck out of here.
Well, but Zendaya, what is she? 4'10" and 198 pounds. Yeah, she's beating up these 300-pound dudes. Dude, and I'm like, come on.
Don't get me started. She looks like she was just at the mall. Like she did no training at all, and she's supposed to be this Fremen warrior. And I kept
thinking, does this girl ever wash her hair?
I know.
They're the Fremen. They're in the desert.
They're Fremen.
I know.
Yeah, they're Fremen. Yeah, that's a waste of water. I think they pee on their hair.
She was the only one that was like, she has a bunch of makeup on her face. Like, what's going on?
Yeah, she's 5'7". She's 5'7", but she's like 90 pounds soaking wet.
She's pretty.
And I've never gotten the appeal of. I know, like, of course, the fashionistas love her, but like, she looks like a 14-year-old girl.
Yeah. Well, and
not an action star
sorry,
whatsoever.
If I'm casting,
that's why they love her.
If I'm casting,
exactly.
If I'm casting Dune, Sydney Sweeney is going to be Princess Irulan, and she's going to have a huge role.
She should be
big.
Everything. She should be the sandworms.
Huge roles.
2 huge roles.
I just saw her. I just
role.
watched Anyone But You, the sitcom that like did so well. It was my wife's birthday. Okay, that's why I sat down and watched it.
He watched it on his own.
Yeah, it had funny moments, right? But definitely no way. No. The whole thing is based on a lesbian wedding, that a destination lesbian wedding, which is the most science fiction, the most craziest thing, because the lesbians would not stay together by the time you flew to Australia. Okay, they'd be fucking broken up by the time the 17-hour flight was over with. So no, but yeah, I understand why people watched it. Yeah, I do.
Well, I tried to sit through Frasier, and it got really woke, and I'm like, what happened to Kelsey?
Yeah. And Kelsey's not woke. He's not a woke person at all.
I guess he just wanted work or something, wanted to do something. I watched I got like 20 minutes into the first episode and said, okay, I'm not watching this.
No. Hey, it's time to get to super chats. Sorry, folks, I'm on a time limit. I have to watch the Oscars. Fucking.
Thank you for your service, Gary.
Gary, are you sure you wouldn't rather have, like, I don't know, a sulfuric acid
needles,
colonoscopy? I would.
Yeah, instead.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it'll be roasting it, so that'll be fun. So let's get to Quantum Sledgehammer has gifted 5 Nerdrotic Live memberships, $25. Thank you very much. Rich Uncle Cheapskate for $50 on the Streamlabs side said 50 for your 50th episode. Love Forbidden Frontier. Keep up the good work. Hail. Thank you.
Yeah.
50. That's cool. 50. Good shit, guys.
Rook takes Rook for $4.99. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. And Zorbu was gifted 5 Nerdrotic Live memberships for $25. Thank you, Zorbu. And a donation on the Streamlabs side says Earth Leader Gary, despite an intergalactic I just had a stroke. Intergalactic restraining order, Quarter Earthling is still texting us. Last one we received asked if we wanted to play 50 Shades of Grey Alien. Whoa. What the F does that even mean, Gary? Please tell him to self-probe from now on. Zorbu is the one who's been probing Garrett. And Zorbu. And Garrett keeps calling.
It's not me. It's him.
Zorbu's ghosting you. Zorbu's ghosting you.
He comes all the way to Earth, treats me to a good time, and then just leaves.
So that's what Zorbu
never calls.
I'm not that kind of girl. Okay, Zorbu.
Josh Kelsey has dropped $20 and left because that's what he does. His name should be Chad. And Dojo Coder for 500 Czechoslovakian pesos. Says
I don't know what that means.
You guys asked, why would the U.S. grab all of these Nazi scientists? Well, the answer is easy. The U.S. Russia would have grabbed them instead. Oh, yeah, they actually did.
Yeah,
they did. But the
They
Nazi
divvied them up,
scientists
didn't they?
went, do we want to live in Russia or do we want to live in America?
Right.
They got some. We got some.
Yep. So as crazy as it sounds, Operation Paperclip made sense in the grand scheme of things. In the big picture, something SJWs and woke idiots will not understand that they were bad. They were Nazis and they were bad, but there was a much bigger battle coming, and it's either they go to your enemy or you get them. Yeah, I totally agree.
I get it.
If you look at it practically, that's what you had to do. It's fucking
the only
fucked
problem
up.
with that is that Truman did sign an executive order saying no ardent Nazis. Okay, von Braun was best buddies with Heinrich Himmler.
I know, right?
I had the scar, the Nazi
I
scar.
wasn't ardent. Okay, I was just ardent adjacent.
I was enthusiastic. I wasn't an ardent Nazi, just enthusiastic.
Yeah,
Just enthusiastic.
it was all a show. Yeah, I didn't really mean it. Jackson loves Nintendo for $1.99. Mike looks like Pedro Pascal with testosterone. That's a compliment. Okay.
I see it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Libertarian guy for $4.99. Mike Bara, what a legend. Love the book Dark Mission, Secret History of NASA. Still have it on my bookshelf. Thanks for the great show. Thanks, Libertarian guy. And that is a great book. Like, dude,
Link in the description.
Link in the description. It's one of those things. Heard it on Art Bell, went to this weird website that was brand new called Amazon.com, ordered it. The internet,
watch out.
back in the early days of the internet.
Scary to buy stuff back then.
Hey, Mike, do you have audiobooks of any of your stuff?
I do not at this point. I've done books with Feral House, which is Dark Mission, and then New Page Books, which is The Choice, which is all about hyperdimensional physics and planetary formation, which we didn't get to, by the way. And then David Childress does a lot of my other Ancient Aliens on secret societies books and stuff like that, and he doesn't do that. So no, but in the future we probably
okay. Yeah, Childress is awesome, by the way. I fucking love that guy.
David Childress is an amazing.
He's amazing.
I
want
him
we were doing that last.
Do the audiobooks of my books.
Yes, he needs. I don't know why they don't do audio, but like fuck Audible, just do them on your own. Do them on his site.
Well, I'm still holding out for Shatner to do.
Hell yeah! Oh God, yes.
But I don't have $1 million.
Childress is a legend. Yeah, I think everybody would love audiobooks from David, from him, from you. Yeah,
written, just spoken in David's voice. Who could it be?
We need an audiobook.
Aliens from the sky.
He talks like Mr. Howell. It's awesome.
I do a pretty good David Hatcher Children.
You do. That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
And Mark D'Antonio, who's a big video guy, does a really, really good Richard Dolan. I mean, so we have Richard Dolan versus David Children.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. I love Dolan. Jam Z for 5 British pounds. So great to see Mike here tonight. My two worlds collide at last. A lot of wisdom on the panel tonight. Not much whiskey though. Well, I'm sorry to hear that, but I don't feel sorry for you.
I do this podcast called Whiskey and Wisdom on Wednesday nights.
Oh, you do? There you go.
That's right.
I got it right here. There you go. I
got
some
Adam,
there it is.
Adam will some alcohol up for you.
It's some Van Winkle. I don't know if you know the Pappies, the rare whiskey. Anyway,
the Pappies.
Yeah, no, it's called a Pappy. It's like a unicorn whiskey.
When I quit drinking, there wasn't like these artisanal beers. Like the most exotic beer was like Foster's Golden Lager and Miller Genuine Draft. Okay,
IPAs are gross.
IPAs.
Gary, let me ask you a question. I got you on the line here. All right,
you do.
There are rumored to be new medical technologies that are just waiting for certain things to change on the planet. In the next, let's say, 6 months or so. That we really expect. So. Those technologies supposedly will be able to take away cravings. Like I'm a sugar addict. My biggest problem is Dr. Pepper. If they could fix that for you, so you didn't have any issues with, you didn't have to quit drinking, you could go back to drinking, would you go back and have alcohol or not?
No, because I wouldn't believe it. And I'm so over it now that I just wouldn't want to go back. I love my sober life, and I wouldn't want my brain to be fogged by anything. Plus, I did my share, and there is I've done my share, like really, and I survived it. Like, dude, I munched so much acid. I can't even believe I could put 2 words together, to be honest with you. But there is a shot out there that I'm forgetting the name of it. But it's for opioids, right? So it's a shot that you get in your stomach. You get a cup. It depends on your physiology, but it can take anywhere from 4 to 8, where it does the same thing that it's an opiate inhibitor. And supposedly it works, but it costs, I think at the last time I checked, it was like $2,000 per shot. But the thing is, if you're a big enough addict, you're going to go out there and do that stuff anyway, and it could kill you. So like, there's a lot of, I don't believe, like, there's Ozempic out there that's making, which is, isn't it, I want to say it's diabetes. It's not.
It is for diabetes.
It is for diabetes.
Yeah. And it's, people are losing weight from it, and it makes you look like you age 10 fucking years, but you lose weight really fast. Like, there's no shortcuts in life, like ever. I mean, if there was a magic, there might be somewhere where they can reprogram your DNA, because
that's coming. That's coming. That's what's coming.
Well, I believe it. I believe it.
Like they can age you back like 30 years, like Corey Good. They can age you back 30 years, and you look great, and feel great, and be optimistic.
Yeah, and that will happen. Suboxone's the devil. Stay away from it. Absolutely stay away. It's hard to say, because if you're an opiate, especially with fentanyl going around, but I will say, be wary of it, because the kick from that can be just as bad than the kick from opiates. I'll do a whole podcast on that someday, on why my experience with Suboxone and how hellish it was. By the way, 20-day kick. 20-day kick from Suboxone. I was sick for 20 fucking days. I wanted to die. Channel Surf for $9.99. Mike Bara needs to be a permanent part of Forbidden Frontier. I wouldn't be against it at all. I don't want to impose on the man, though.
No, I'd love to anytime. Anytime as often as you want.
Awesome. We'll make you a regular.
Except during football season, if the Seahawks are playing on a Sunday.
Well, they'll be out of the playoffs, so it won't be that
they're
long.
usually not.
Just kidding.
Carol, things are looking up. We got rid of. Well, we don't have a quarterback yet.
Yeah. You need a quarterback.
Watch out,
dude. I remember. So I'm an old school Charger fan. So I remember when the Seahawks were in the AFC West.
Yes.
Jim Zorn, Steve Largent.
Yes.
My uncle was the equipment manager. So we get like and I wasn't even a fucking Seahawks fan, but we get on the sidelines with them and stuff. And I got a Rick Meyer. Remember when you guys got Rick Meyer? I got him signed a football and yeah. A lot of connections with Seahawks. I was like, the Kingdom, man, loud. That place was loud, man.
It was loud. But it was a mausoleum. It was all concrete.
It was terrible. Yeah, it was awful.
And the field was hard as a rock. I don't know how the players survived it, but yeah. Anyway, cool.
Crit Nature for $10 on the Streamlabs side would like to know what Mike Bara thinks of Felix Rodriguez. He was recently on Danny Jones. Seems like the CIA propaganda that Castro gave the order to kill Kennedy is still in place because we're still here. We still hear that from X, and that's in quotes, CIA people like him. Did you catch any of that?
I don't know the man specifically or what his claims are, but again, when you think about it, it's like you're going to kill the president in public, right? The reason has to be big.
Yes.
Okay. Castro's pissed off is not a big enough reason to potentially start World War III. Khrushchev is not going to start World War III. The mafia is not going to basically get them. I don't think they're going to try it. Well, they probably
the mafia was generally patriotic. Yeah. Right? I mean, for the most part.
Aliens is big enough.
It's a private government. It's better than other mafia.
I mean, I look at it and I say to myself, the only thing that's really big enough to justify taking the risk of killing the president, openly assassinating him, not just, he died of a heart attack, like they tried to kill Trump at the State of the Union in 2020 by doing the what was the interview thing where you shake hands with the first person and you get the first part of the poison and then you get the second part. Anyway, that could be
the Russian way. The Russian way.
Russian and North Korea.
Yeah,
they've done
that. Could be made to look like a heart attack, but I'm talking about killing him in the open. It has to be big.
Yes.
And the silver certificates might have done it, but we've got documentation that the alien thing was the big problem. We've got the documents. That's the thing.
It's not like our government hasn't killed people before and over the alien stuff.
Yeah.
They just have.
Although I don't think we do that as much anymore.
It's too filled with bureaucracy. They just bore people to death. That's what they do. Or incompetent people to death. But they're way too busy
killing people. Go ahead.
Oh, I think we're still killing people. I just think right now they're too busy controlling a zombie who's controlling our country. Yeah, the Adderall bill must be fucking crazy. Like all the Adderall we're paying for right now.
What did they have him on the other night?
Holy shit!
Adderall. I mean, I'd like to see a close up of his pupils. I bet
pupils on that. Like,
anyway,
that was some speed. Take it from somebody who's taking a lot of fucking speed. That was some speed.
That was speed. Yeah, okay.
Vertigo Streamlabs side for $10.
I have a question about drugs. I'll ask you, Gary.
Okay, yeah, there you go. Mike, thank you for coming on the show. Question, a little woo-woo for most palates. I'm fine with that. But have you ever heard of the Law of One and the history of our solar system, aliens, and the evolution of our species is through provoking, also pretty woo to most. So have you heard of the Law of One?
I have heard of this. David Wilcock is really big on the Law of One. So although I don't agree with him on everything, I do like, and I do. It does irritate me to hear my words come out of his mouth 5 years later. But having said that, he's big on the Law of One thing. It's interesting. A lot of that is just sort of, new age stuff pulled from here and there and everywhere. A lot of it comes from a source book called the Urantia book, Urantia, I think it is. That book is full of stuff. Really, it's huge. It's like 600 or 700 pages. It's bigger than Dark Mission. I would recommend you read that instead of the Law of One. And I don't think it's all true, but I think a lot of what's in it is true. You know, the thing is that I feel like the government agenda, why they're talking about UFOs and aliens, and this is going to get even weirder for you guys, is look, man has a special relationship with God. All of our religions tell us this. I think that a lot of this stuff is to try to drive a wedge between us and our creator. And you can call him God or Jesus or whoever you want, but I feel like that's part of the agenda that we're looking at with why aliens are suddenly in the news and so popular here lately. So I would say read the Urantia book, read The Law of One, but be cautious. Be cautious about what they tell you and don't believe everything. Because there are a lot of things that are in those books that you look around the solar system and it's like, well, that doesn't seem to be true. So, you know, keep an open mind.
Yeah, that's the whole point of this whole subject is, you know, so many people trying to shut it all down. It's like, you know, we don't believe everything we hear, you know, but it's good to like, there's kernels of truth in all of this. And that's the fun part. That's the fun part. Juan Castle for $4.99 says, I work for SpaceX. No secret alien program to my knowledge. Well, SpaceX probably wouldn't know, but I used to work for Tesla. I didn't know anything about SpaceX.
Have you seen Elon Musk?
SpaceX can't even build a
Have you seen Alien? Yeah. Let's send X-Ray Girl to space to investigate.
Yes. I would love to go.
Don't let her drive. Do not let her pilot the rocket. No.
Yeah. Is there a GPS in this thing?
We'll send you up in one of those Jeff Bezos penis rockets.
Yeah, there you go.
All rockets
big blue
shaped
dick.
like that anyway.
There goes X-Ray Girl.
Aerodynamics.
Some more than others, though. X-ray.
Yes.
That's true.
Neil Horn for $4.99. Hail everyone! Another great show. I have a question for X-Ray Girl. Why the hell do you deploy a minefield at the extraction point? Is that from
was
your
Kara?
game?
That wasn't me. That was Kara.
That was Kara.
We do sound alike sometimes when we scream.
Oh, they're talking about your gameplay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Fighting for democracy.
How do girls scream like that? They all scream exactly the same way. Yeah, they all sound exactly the same. Like Dakota, what's her name from War of the Worlds? What was her name?
Fanning.
Dakota Fanning. Yeah.
And I'm like, God, every girl.
I know you just bring out a
like that
puppy
one
or a
chick.
baby and they make this noise.
It's called acting. They're always acting.
You know what? I don't sound like the Rebel Moon girl, so I'm happy about that.
Oh, you mean this? Hang on.
You got it.
No, you got it. If you get it first, go. I got it.
Oh, I was looking at the top and the bottom. It's like right in the middle.
That's
all of our
everybody.
clips.
By the way, do you guys like Halo? Do you guys like Halo? My brother.
Not anymore.
The game
Not anymore.
or the movie?
I liked Halo 1.
One, two, three.
I got an
new,
Xbox.
New season of the TV show. And by the way, British people, it's not a series, it's a season. Okay? A series is the whole thing. There were 3 seasons of Star Trek, which made up the series. Can we just get that right, please, British people?
Does make it confusing.
Yeah. No, they do that with Doctor Who. I had to get used to that. Series 1. I'm like, what?
What?
That makes no sense.
Technically, it's a series of episodes, but the series
unnecessary use in their words and fucking beans on toast.
Yeah.
Oh,
Stacking
God.
rocks in weird
Beans
shapes.
for breakfast. Beans for breakfast. What? And tomatoes. What is that? Stewed tomatoes and beans for breakfast.
I did have a proper English breakfast that wasn't beans on toast, though. It was just like all sausage and bacon and stuff. It's like
That doesn't
now
I'm
we're
good with
talking.
that.
Now we're talking.
I had one too. It was good.
It
did have the
good.
beans on toast, and it was.
Well-
I didn't mind it.
Oh, sorry.
Quelndar on the Streamlabs side for $50. Quelndar. Congrats on the 50th episode. Hail the Frontier Fellowship. Perfect guest for the 50th episode, by the way.
Yeah.
Huge.
I squeed like a little girl, just like Rebel Moon when Mike when I saw Mike start showing up in my Twitter feed. I'm like, oh fuck yeah. Hell yeah.
He didn't stop
Win.
following me.
Oh, he didn't stop following me like Giorgio Tsoukalos. Like Giorgio followed me for like 2 days and saw me say MCU or some shit and just bailed out.
Well, just don't let yourself be trapped in a corner of a bar with Giorgio around you.
Oh, okay.
I want to know more.
Haven't I? Garrett, I think in the meme.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
So
Yeah.
You know that story.
It's not inaccurate. He's a player.
Well, that part might be inaccurate.
Yeah. Oh, Giorgio's a dude, bro. Okay, don't give like he'll like comes off all esoteric and everything, but like he's a dude, bro. So
okay,
for sure.
He did give me the job on Ancient Aliens, so I do appreciate that. And I put him on some of my stuff back in the early days, and he did me a favor. I did him a solid. He did me a solid. Let's leave it at that.
We'll leave it at that. I like the guy. We shook hands. We went to a dude. Real quick, we got to go after this. But if I don't get all those soups, by the way, I apologize, everyone. They will be read at the beginning of the show next week. Okay, beginning of the show. Okay, that'll be my promise because I'm on a time constraint. But we went to Garrett and I went to Ancient Aliens Live. Right,
it was awesome.
We thought, and it was fun. Little too scripted for me. Like, I would like to have seen them go off the cup, but they had like Travis Taylor.
How dare you?
It's 300 feet above the mesa. Okay. No. And they had Childress there who's fucking awesome. And Nick Pope. And it was fun. But we got to meet.
Did he talk about balls? Did he talk about big giant concrete balls?
Concrete
There's these stone balls, and nobody knows where these balls came from.
Stone balls everywhere.
There's balls everywhere.
I like how he mixes in the Target stone balls, which is it's fun. No, but we got to meet him, and we got to like. It
was awesome.
Giorgio kind of recognized me, and we shook hands and talked, and he's
totally
like,
recognized you.
Yes, and then he's like, "Give me your phone number." I'm like, I don't have a pen. So I go back I write it down. And when I go back, like 3 bouncers just fucking, remember? They're like, you can't go back. I'll hand it to him. I'm like, dude, you saw him just like, whatever. But it was interesting. I wish they had done way more off the cuff stuff because I know they're capable of it. I know like Mike, like the great thing about your lectures, dude, is you were funny. Like you were funny. You crack some jokes. Say Trudeau's Castro's son, it's like some really base shit. That's why I was always bummed.
Picks, what can you say?
I go to Contact and it's like Mike Bara's not there anymore. This sucks. It's like you're missed. Buddy.
I will not be appearing at anything that Gaia sponsors. And and that has to do with Stanley Kubrick, moon landings, and certain fake alien mummies, which
yeah, dude. I mean, that was bad.
I played a role in exposing the fake alien mummies. So that's fine. That's fine.
They did it themselves. They just they showed it to the camera.
Showing those things. I mean, it's like, what the fuck are you? Jesus.
You got to put those behind some like frosted glass or something, and some out of focus cameras.
Yeah, and
otherwise they don't work.
Own up to it. Just go. They're fake. Sorry. We got duped.
Sorry, they were fake.
They were fucking fake. All right, we'll read a couple more here. People are calling me a simp. Okay, that's fine. That's fair. 2 possibilities exist. Either we are alone in the universe or we are not. Both are equally terrifying. Arthur C. Clarke also is Middle Earth flat. Well, it was until the reshaping of the world after the fall of Numenor. So yeah,
I love the flat earthers.
Thanks.
I do too. I was explaining to my son today. I'm like, we're on a little walk and we're watching a jet stream, and it looks like it's going straight up. And I'm all, son, do you know why that jet stream looks like it's going straight up, like it's a rocket? You think it's going to space? He's all, no, because the Earth is round. I'm a good boy, good boy, good boy. Tell that to the fucking flat earthers. Adam knows one.
They're a source of
nonstop. Actually, I know a couple. I know a few of them. They're in New York. They multiply. I don't get it.
And most of the NBA players, but that's okay.
Yeah. My best friend on the bachelor party trip, he leaned over to me and was like, "Are you a flat earther?" I was like, "No. Why would you even do that?"
That's
gosh,
funny.
man. He's like, "I don't know. I just wanted to check."
Still gay. The Oscars have always been gay. The Oscars were called the gay Super Bowl. That's what they were called.
Really?
Unironically,
Always.
yes. Yeah.
That's why
nothing that sparkles that much is not gay.
To go watch.
I'm only there for the fashion.
Really?
Gay.
I'm there for some stupid adult pretender to say something fucking
I
stupid.
just have one question. Is Sydney Sweeney presenting, and will it be in a low cut top?
I hope so.
They'll have
if
a
they were
clip of it on
smart,
the
I think
internet.
she's
but they're
required
not.
to at this point if she does present.
She presented in Anything But You. So
Oh.
yeah, but you got to sit through all the other, like, fucking lesbian.
Stream it and just fast forward.
I feel like there's websites for that if you
lesbian
want.
wedding is so unbelievable. It's so unbelievable. Me and my wife were just laughing our asses off. Like, no fucking way.
You should do it topless. One guy says, "Yeah, I'd watch
Yes,
that. I'd watch. You want me to watch the fucking Oscars again? Do that. Yeah,
do that." What if UFOs were actually God's computer cursor? Asked Mad Dog 375 for $2. We don't know. We don't know. Andrew Reeder, thank you for the 10 Canadian pesos. And the last two of the night, we'll do. Bucks Dollar for $10 says E equals MC squared, except not in overall constant light, can be slowed down. Also, as something approaches this speed, time slows down for that object. This includes light. Light is time traveling. Everyone, we see it.
I think that he got that all right. I think.
Yeah. We have a smart chat. I mean, they're smarter than me. So, honestly, chat, that's not saying much. But Dan A for $10. Joe, there aren't aliens probing us. They are just undocumented space travelers, man.
Newcomers. Have you heard? Have you got the new download? It's newcomers now. They're not aliens. They're not
newcomers.
They're newcomers.
No, you can't steal that from Alien Nation. You can't. You can't.
No.
Gary Graham just died. We have to honor his memory.
Rest in peace, by the way. Rest in peace. He was based too, by the way.
He was a good actor. Very
yes,
good,
he was.
solid TV guy. That was a great show.
We got a few more, so we're gonna start with those next show because we like to get through them all in the show. But I'm unfortunately on the time constraint. Mike, we need to get you back, dude. There's so much more we need to talk about, and shit, I could talk about you about pop culture and all kinds of shit. So thanks, man. Great job, dude.
Thank you. I appreciate being here. I will see you guys in a month or so in April when you're out here in Vegas. I will not miss that. I will probably come both days. Yes. Although I may drink.
That's fine. It's a bar.
You can drink with us. Me and Garrett.
Let's go.
Okay. And I'm sorry, my answers were kind of long. Because when my answers are long, we don't get as many questions. But totally there's just so much information, and I just go from point to point to point. And I was like, I gotta tell them that too.
That's perfect for the show. Like normally we go a little longer, but so next time we will. Can't wait to see you in Las Vegas. Adam, my brother is going to be a pop. So proud of you. How you doing, man? What do you got coming up?
I'm good. Yeah, my child is now like 17 centimeters or something. I'm doing it the metric system here, so her belly's starting to pop. I'm really excited. I got it was good. I went. My birthday was last Thursday, so this weekend.
Happy birthday!
Thank you. My in-laws came and they took me to a spa, and it was pretty dope. It was in the middle of this boreal oak forest that had 800-year-old oak trees. I stood in front of an 800-year-old oak tree this morning, actually, and it was freaking cool, man.
That's
this thing
awesome. That's really cool.
It was the gnarliest looking tree I've ever seen, too. Like just super twisted and gnarly. Probably why it wasn't cut down, because it was so twisted up, but it was really cool. So yeah. But Mike, it was a pleasure to meet you. I'm sorry I missed some of the show. The time change kind of threw me off.
Yeah,
so
well, you know how it is here with the let's just go to daylight savings time permanently.
Yes.
Who doesn't want it to be dark at 4:30 in the afternoon in December?
Right.
And it's different. The time hasn't changed for me. In like 3 weeks it changes in Europe. So
it's so weird.
For some reason they're not even synced up.
It's not even synced up, and it makes no sense. It's because it's for money. It doesn't make any other sense than that. So
yeah.
That's why they made it longer, because we used to have to wait till April, right? Back in the day. Maybe.
That was always March.
Don't ask me though. My memory's fucked. Thanks, Adam. Love you, man. What do you got coming up? Quarter Black Garrett.
Tomorrow, Based AF Monday on Adam's channel. And after that is the Resident Evil continuation. We're on like part 5. I think we're almost beating it. I think we're almost there. And then after that, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Normal World. As always. That's it.
Sweet. X-Ray Girl.
Tomorrow I'll be playing mostly Final Fantasy, and actually tomorrow's show for Doctor Who Torchwood is canceled because Zia has some other obligations, but I'll be playing that game in the evening instead. So
awesome.
It's fantastic. Rebirth you talking about?
Yeah, I like
It's
it
so good.
far.
Is it good?
Yeah.
There's people who are very like OG lovers that aren't loving the changes in the story, but I mean, I
feel like we
don't
talked about
remember
this.
it
I never
that
played
much.
the original.
So
Yeah.
I feel
I'm
like
one of
it.
those. I'm one of those OG lovers, but I don't mind the. I'm glad that I get caught off guard. It's not. I don't know exactly how it's gonna go, so I'm still. It's still
Oh,
kind
the
of playing it
expectations,
new.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. So I don't mind it.
They're not like woke or anything, the changes from what I understand, at least from
No,
chat. But I
the
don't
the
know.
wokeness is only in like the side characters. It feels like the game company was like, no, you don't get to affect the storyline.
You can't
here,
change
you
the
stuff over
boobs.
here.
You can make this one random character deaf, and maybe this character can be flamboyant, but they're just meaningless characters. So
Okay.
yeah.
All right.
We're done.
I'm gonna jump over to Film Threats live stream after this tomorrow morning. I believe it's around noon our time. I will be on a show that's kind of UK based. That's all, the
so
only
look
hint
out.
I can give. That's the only hint I can give, because I gotta wait for because I'll be on with another YouTuber who but he's got to say it first. So
Watch
Okay.
Twitter.
Cool.
keep an eye on Twitter. Keep an eye on the community section. Around noon tomorrow, I'll be guesting on a show. You'll recognize it. So
Have fun
Maybe-
watching
maybe
the
not.
Oscars.
Yeah.
I will. I'll be with Az and
It'll be
and
fun.
Chris Gore and Frank Gore.
Yeah.
Frank Gore and Alan Ing. So
Screen cap some Sydney Sweeney for us if she shows up.
of course. Maybe somebody will get slapped this year. You don't know.
That way I don't
never
know.
know.
I want it to happen.
Oh, I was asking the chat. I recorded an Unsubscribed podcast yesterday. That should be out in a week. That was tons of fun. Those guys are a donut operator.
Love those people.
And Brandon Herrera. Vote for him in Texas if you're in Texas. And Eli, fucking great guys. So that was fun. All right. Guys, we'll see you next week. Take care.
Bye.
Nerdrotic.com.
Welcome, travelers, to the fringes of reality, where the strange and mysterious meet, and the thin veil between fact and fiction is torn. Welcome to the Forbidden Frontier.